Recording has started.
Yes, Chairman, it's in progress.
Thank you very much. It is now 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to call the meeting of the WIFA Board with the roll call for members' attendance. David Beckham,
I'm sure something.
Ted Cook,
Here.
Buchanan Davis,
Present.
Patrice Horseman,
Present.
Pete Kim,
Here.
Richard Lunt,
Present.
Sue Montgomery,
Here.
Tim Tamir,
Here.
Jonathan Lyons here. Quorum is confirmed. Now I'm going to call on non-voting members. Tom Bushatsky,
Colin Wilgenstall for Tom Bushatsky.
Ray DeCiccio, Gail Griffin, Lauren Kuby,
Here.
Karen Peters.
Here.
Hi, Karen. Robin Said. TJ, go ahead. No. TJ Shope. Stephanie Stahl Hamilton. And Sandra Watson. Roll call is complete. For the record, please remember to identify yourself when making a motion or requesting to speak. Please ensure you are unmuted for any votes. For those in the room, please remember to leave your microphones on the table for sound quality purposes. In addition, if any board member wishes to depart the meeting at any time, please announce your departure for recorded meeting minutes. And we have two people with hard outs today and quite a bit on our agenda. And so we would like to proceed as efficiently as we possibly can. Have we received any disclosures for conflicts of interest? Joe?
Good morning, Joseph Telly, General Counsel. No disclosure submitted for today's meeting.
If any conflicts of interest arise, please remember to identify those.
We do have Tim with his hand raised, Mr.
All right, Tim, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure if it'll be subject to discussion today, but I would have a conflict. Oh, I just lost my place. A conflict of interest with under the Water Conservation Grant Fund, number 61, if we end up discussing that one. Or I'm sorry, not 61, 60.
Thank you, Tim, and we'll flag that for Joe. All right, Director's report. We'll turn it over to Director McGuire to lead the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, board members. Welcome back to the WIFA office. We do have a lot on our agenda today. I'll try to be brief, but there are a few things I want to make sure you're all informed of. The first is that on March 26th, WIFA issued amendment number 6 to the solicitation for long-term water importation. Amendment number 6 was minor. It made conforming changes and schedule adjustments only. As you can see by the schedule here, we are currently in the middle of one-on-one meetings with qualified proposer teams. Those are all happening this week. If there are Q&A responses or amendments that may result from those, we'll continue to inform this board of those consistent with this solicitation. As a reminder, the next publicly available information about the procurement will be released after offers are submitted, which you can see is currently scheduled for May 28th, 2025. Kind of all we have to update on that, at least publicly right now, but again, continue to monitor your communications to see if there are any changes there. Also very excited to announce that we have filled the vacancy that was created by my appointment, and we have an eminently qualified candidate, Ben Alternator, who is joining the WIFA team at the end of this month as our Assistant Director for External Affairs. A lot of you know Ben very well. He's a familiar face to many of us. He's currently the Chief Legislative Liaison at ADWR. He has past roles at Game and Fish, State Lands, Department of Corrections, so no stranger to state government or natural resources policy, and we are thrilled to have him join the team. So the next WIFA board meeting will be the first time you're able to be introduced to him in person as a member of the WIFA team. So we're very excited about that. Legislatively, speaking of which, not a lot of action since the last board meeting where we talked about a couple of bills that we were tracking. The main one is HCR 2016, which is the concurrent resolution showing support for WIFA and reinstatement eventually of our funding. We are still awaiting floor action in the Senate for the concurrent resolution. This is the time of year when things at the legislature are really, really fast until they're not, and then they're really, really slow until they're not. And so Judah's continuing to be our eyes and ears down there, and we'll continue to update you on that. If there is any need for additional interaction or additional engagement with the legislature, we will be sure to let you know. Other things that I do just want to make note of, because we do have a very packed agenda and we have a lot of decisions to make on funding on both water supply and water conservation grant fund. And I'm sure Joe will reiterate this as well when we get to that. Just a reminder to board members that we do require 6 affirmative votes to fund any of the water supply or water conservation grants are on our agenda. So just throwing that out there for context now. Like I said, I'm sure Joe will remind us as we get there, but wanted to make sure everyone had that in their head as we go forward too. Last but not least, Mr. Chair, I just want to note that David Beckham has joined us online for the record, and we also have Ray DeCiccio with us online for the record. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Next on the agenda, items 4 through 7 are noticed as consent agenda items and will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless otherwise directed by a board member. A reminder to those attending virtually, please ensure you are unmuted for our vote. Do we have any requests from the board to pull any items off of the consent agenda? All right, I would entertain a motion to approve items 4 through 7 on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, this is Richard Lund. I would so move that we approve the consent agenda as posted.
Do I have a second?
David Beckham, I second.
Thank you, David. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we have any opposed? Do we have anybody abstaining? Okay, thank you. Motion passes. We're going to go into the regular agenda. Members of the public wishing to speak on regular agenda item may request to speak prior to the chairman opening the discussion on that item. For instruction on how to submit a speaker's card, please refer to the notes on proceedings at the end of today's meeting. Have we received any requests?
Mr. Chair, we have received one request so far for public comment on water conservation grant fund issues. So
Okay.
I will reiterate that once we get to that portion of the agenda.
Very good. Thank you very much. So we will go to agenda item number 8, and Denise will lead the discussion.
Thank you. So we continue to monitor the financial status of WIFA and funding activities going into the future. It continues to be very challenging and exciting. So it's been a fun environment to work in. I guess that's what I'll say. But there's basically 3 things that we're facing now. We continue to face the elimination of tax exempt financing, and this is again a way to offset the possible extension of the 2017 Tax Act. We also have seen recently very high amount of activity of people bringing deals to the market. So there's a lot of competition out there, which makes sense. And then as of last week, we also saw some very high changes in our rates due to the new tariff policies that Trump announced. So I'll go over some of these in detail. But since our last meeting, the Senate has approved a budget, the one big beautiful bill. So this continues to roll forward. Now we are in the reconciliation process between the Senate and the House so they can finalize some kind of budget. So we continue to watch that. Tax exempt financing is still on the list as a way to offset extending the 2017 Tax Act. I reach out and talk to underwriters. I talk to our financial advisor. We talk to the industry. We attend every seminar we can find. And there's a general feeling that they do not think that the tax exempt financing will go away. But it's still on the table. It's still a possibility. And I still think it is prudent for us to position ourselves to deal with that in case it does happen. So I put some comments on there for you just as information. At the end of last week, we did have some confidence from 14 House Republicans and 11 House Democrats that sent a letter advocating for keeping tax exempt financing as a tool for our financial environment. So if we can go to the next slide. Want to talk a little bit about last week. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because what we're attempting to do right now, I think our strategy has been to put together a bond resolution so that we are ready to go if we need to. But what I want to talk about is what happened last week, because this market's changing daily, right? So it's hard. In the old days, we were able to pick a date and sell bonds on that date. And we were pretty reasonable. We had pretty high confidence in what that rate would be. In today's market, it really is a day-to-day decision. And so what happened last week kind of illustrates that point. If you look at a year ago or 12 months ago, the index that we use to track everything is the 20-year MMD for general obligation AAA bonds. And it was the rate for those bonds would have been 3.12%. Want the board to keep in mind that our portfolio, so all of our loans and the interest rates tied to those loans, we're sitting at 2.8%. On April 10th, last week, that index hit a high of 4.66%. Usually when the stock market has big changes, people go and buy bonds because that's a safe haven. That did not happen last week. I also put the 20-year treasury at 4.9. And then I also thought it was important just to start tracking what the taxable rate would be. So if tax exempt financing went away, that's the rate that we would be using. That was at 5.5. One of the things that we're looking at and monitoring is what's the difference between the taxable rate versus the tax exempt rate. So you can see in that market, there was almost 100% or 100 basis points difference. I also put the 3-year treasury rate, so you can see that if we sold bonds, that's the rate we could earn on any proceeds in the fund balance. So we also are monitoring that. Now, the market did settle down after last week's temper tantrum is what I'll call it, or a tariff tantrum. And we are seeing rates this week of around 4.3%. When you look in the future, do we think those rates are going to go down? Maybe, but that probability is decreasing as we speak. But it does change every week. So that's kind of the current status. Point being, if we were going to sell bonds last week, I would have pulled it off the shelf in a heartbeat, right? Those rates are way too high. So if we go to the next slide. We've seen this slide before. I just wanted to remind the board, we're still projecting that we will need cash in a year. So it is something that we're going to need to do in the near future, is we will have to sell bonds. So I'm keeping that slide up there. I will try to update that before the next board meeting. Next slide. So I've been telling the board that we've got plenty of financial capacity. So we're well positioned, even though we've got challenges in the market, we're well positioned to handle those challenges. This is a very conservative approach, and these numbers will change when we start putting together the deal and refining these amounts. But if we look at what our projected revenues would be, that's the first column. Then I put what our existing debt is going to be, right? Again, we pay off all of our debt in 28, which is actually October of 27. And it shows you what our debt service coverages would be. I then put a layer of new money. So I put in 125 million at 4.5%. Frankly, I probably wouldn't go forward with 125 million. That is the highest number. And I'm hoping we don't hit 4.5%, but again, high number. And you can see that our debt service coverage is fine. The revenues going into the future do not reflect any revolving loans, right? So those are only loans that are repaying that we have in place today. So it really is not an accurate reflection, but it does show that we've got a lot of financial capacity. So then if we go to the next slide. This is just a repeat of what would happen if taxes and financing was eliminated. Again, the cost would be about $1 million annually is what we're estimating. Again, our loan portfolio is sitting at 2.8%. If taxes and financing went away, we'd have to reevaluate what interest rate, what index we're using for our loans, which would really impact our borrowers. Also, if taxes and financing went away, when we look at our population in Arizona, if you look at all the recent issuances that hit the market, over almost 52% were small issuances under $100 million. They may have trouble getting into the market if tax and financing goes away. So our loan demand may go up. So this is just some of those bullets to keep the board aware of possible impacts. And next slide. So what we have in front of the board today is a resolution. Again, I want to make sure that we are positioned to issue bonds. It doesn't mean we will issue bonds, right? It's going to be a day-to-day decision. We won't be ready. We've got, by the way, we do have Jennifer Cosper with Squire Patton Boggs in the audience, who's our bond counsel, and we also have Bill Davis, who's our financial advisor in the audience as well. This is something that we're going to monitor every day. We won't be ready to hit the market probably until July. So that's as fast as we can put this deal together. But I think it's prudent for us to continue to march forward with this possibility and then start monitoring it day to day to see if we go or not. And so we have the resolution for approval for the board so that we are able to act quickly if needed. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Denise. Any questions from the board for Denise? Sure. Pete?
What interesting times we live in. Last week's gyrations were incredible.
No thanks.
Yeah,
Depends on whether you were in the market or not.
there are winners and losers with every swing, and so that's why it moves. I like this plan just because it's very prudent. It seems to me that, just every single 100 basis points, those numbers move is a lot of money. Hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars. So, it seems to me that from a commentary standpoint, this is the best thing that we can do in order to make sure that we can continue to operate no matter what happens. And the basis on this, it really comes down to a couple of points, which is, are we going to need the money? And if we do need the money, how much is it going to cost? And I think that the ability to act on a dime basically is necessary because the market rates environment changes so quickly that we have to be ready to strike if and when. My question is this: what else could we do theoretically to maximize the chances that we can get the best money or the best deal possible so that we can continue to operate regardless? Maybe we've done everything we can, and if we can think of anything, we'll let you know. But is there anything else that you wish you could have done that isn't reflected in this plan today?
I think it's the devil's in the details of structuring these deals. Right now we're assuming 20 years. I think Bill and I need to crunch some of those numbers and some scenarios. Is it 20 years? Is it 15 years? Is it 10 years? What's the best marketability of those bonds and what's the best rate? So I think we just need to do some more technical analysis just to see if we can hone in on exactly what's the best plan of financing. And we also have to put together a team of good underwriters.
Yep.
So that's going to be important as well.
Those was always thus.
Yes, yes.
In terms of who else we're benchmarking against, I would imagine that similar organizations to ours are also wrestling with the exact same questions. Are we conferring with folks like that to make sure that, our plans are in line with the best thinking in the industry?
Yes, and Bill, do you want to come up and talk about that? He's very active in the market right now and can talk about some of the deals that have been put on the shelf. And we also have EPA coming out in the next couple months, so we do plan to talk to them to see if we can gauge what's going on. And Lindsay's going out to Washington, D.C. next week, and we have her set up to talk to some people to also touch base on what they're doing in the market. So we are gathering that information. But right now, I think we're all kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
We may be a little bit ahead of some others in our thinking. So we do have that financial capability more than maybe some of the other SRF funds. So we may be in a better position in comparison.
I like that positioning, and I
Yes,
like to be in the forefront and the vanguard of leadership, thought leadership. So that's good, but it's always good to check.
Phil, do you want to add to that?
Thank you, Denise. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Again, my name is Phil Davis. I'm with Piper Sandler and serving as the authority's financial advisor. Denise did a great job of kind of explaining our situation. We've been, spending a lot of time kind of talking about what we might be able to do, what we might need to do. It is a unique situation, and I think the biggest risk right now that we're facing is the potential of the elimination of tax exemption. And really, but for that, we might be looking more at a January to April 2026 sale, just because of your cash position right now and the pace of the drawdowns. But being in position to sell tax exempt, and we're also in a very favorable position, I believe, because WIFA is able, if we are selling bonds or when we do sell bonds, we will use the proceeds to reimburse the authority for loans that have already been drawn. And under the tax code, that allows us to get to a position where those proceeds are deemed spent for tax law purposes. And so therefore, if you borrowed, let's just say the threat becomes reality and we're able to sell bonds before the elimination of tax exemption, then we'll have, in theory, that lower rate debt outstanding, tax exemption, in a world where everybody's borrowing on a taxable basis. So then we'll have, a lower cost of funds to lend out and really provide significantly more benefit to your local borrowers. Really, that's kind of about the only thing I need, probably can think of to say is that I think this path will put us in that position to, hopefully take advantage of it if the elimination ultimately comes to pass.
Thank you. Yes, Ted.
Chair, and I think Bill probably answered most of my primary question here, which was timing, and I appreciate from Denise's comments today and our previous discussions that July is as early as we could be ready. And that's a good thing, but until then, and probably even at that point and going forward for some period of time, it will remain what it is today, which is kind of a look at it every single day and kind of see, do you do it or not? Unfortunately, one of our primary unknowns is, will we need to borrow? And we can't afford in any sense to wait until it's imminent and we have a sudden rush on fundings of already approved loans and things like that and say, oh darn, we need to go and do this. So this is prudent for us to be prepared in advance. On the other side of the coin, as far as uncertainties, I would be hopeful that some of these things, particularly with respect to this question of elimination of tax exempt financing, would get hashed out sometime this year as part of the putting the big beautiful bill budget framework into legislation. We would know that hopefully by the end of 2025. And hopefully some of the tariff tremors or whatever clever term that you came up would also kind of be damped out or resolved one way or the other prior to that. So getting to my point, so Bill had said it may make more sense for us to do a sale late in the year, early 2026. And I just wanted to make sure, and that makes a lot of sense to me. This authorization doesn't have a sunset date in it. So while it's frustrating to maybe have to deal with this day-to-day gyrations and uncertainties that are going on, it is unlikely that we will have a run on the funds that we have within the next 12 months. But that's probably the same time frame when some of these other uncertainties will kind of be clarified. So I would actually be looking at, probably my expectation would be exactly what Bill said, is something probably on the order of 8 to 12 months from now rather than in July. It's good to be expeditious and use the momentum to get to that point so we can be ready by then if we need to, but we probably won't be ready with respect to our willingness to actually pull the trigger and go do something. So that's more of a comment than a question, but I just wanted to make sure that everything I said is correct as far as no sunset, et cetera.
One thing, and maybe Bill can comment on this too, in addition to what you just said, which is all very true, we also have to look at market supply. July is a good time to hit the market in terms of buyers. So one thing that I'll be asking Bill to do is look at the calendar of everybody who's bringing deals to the market over the next 6 months as much as we possibly can, so we can see if there's going to be the $1 billion airport deal coming that we don't want to compete with. So that's just one more consideration we need to be watching.
Thank you, Denise. Ted, Bill, anything else?
Comment and then a question. From a commentary perspective, it just seems that this is a better safe than sorry kind of thing, right? Just being prepared and ready to move if we need to. And, it could hit in 6, it could hit in 12, and that could be dependent upon a lot of factors, right? Whether we need it, whether it's a good time to buy, borrow, et cetera. So I see all those things. In my mind, I'm weighing sort of the upside versus the downside. The upside is we borrow money that we're going to need anyway a little bit early, right? And then on the downside, it's we get caught flat-footed and we can't borrow when we need to, and then money that's needed in order to make sure that the water flows in our state is not available, which is a downside that I would rather avoid. My question is this. Would it be helpful for the board to have some folks that are kind of in day-to-day contact with you on this stuff, just so that you could have like sort of fast follows around these things? Chairman, I'd like,
Yes.
maybe that would be something that we could do as a board in order to expedite kind of the information flow and the communications between them.
That's a good suggestion. Yeah. Thank you, Pete. All right, with all of that being said, if there are no other questions from the board, I would entertain a motion on resolution 2025-111, authorizing the issuance and sale of Arizona water quality revenue bonds.
This is Pete Kim, I so move.
This is Tim, second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Bill. Agenda item number 9, Lindsay Jones will lead a discussion on the water supply development project priority list.
Thank you, sir. Go to this slide. So we have the project priority list, and we do have some updated numbers on the slide here. So in total, we have requested over $100 million in applications for the water supply fund. Of that, 67 million would be eligible for grant funds and 33 eligible for loan funds. As of last month at the March board meeting, we have the total approved is 43 million approved, with 34.7 million in grant funds approved and just over 8 million in loan funds approved. And then as of last month, after the board meeting, we had a water supply committee meeting. That committee met and heard 10 projects. They recommended approval for 7 of those projects and then did not recommend approval on 3 of the projects. If all of the committee's recommendations were followed for approval today, we would be looking at having, just over 11.45 million in loans and 43.6 million in grant funds approved. So happy to take any questions on the application list. That's all I have for you.
Any questions from the board? Thank you very much, Lindsay.
Hey, Chairman, I do.
Yes, go ahead, David. Sorry.
When you say, Lindsay, when you say grant funds, are you referring to forgivable principal or a true grant here? Because we're going to review here coming up, again, I made the comment last time, you can't keep forgiving all the principal, but the first, 5 of them were forgiving all the principal. So are you making a distinction then? I'm sorry, I'm not following it.
No, absolutely, I can answer that. So in the water supply fund, we do consider them to be grant funds and then loan funds with no loan forgiveness, unlike what we have in our state revolving SRF funds.
Got it.
And Mr. Chair, this is Chelsea. I would also add to that there are 3 maybe of these applications that are a combination then of grant and loan. I don't think we've done anything that's solely loan. All of it does, every loan that we've given out does have an aspect of grant attached to it. But as Lindsay said, yeah, all of the grant amount approved is true grant forgivable principal amount.
So we are going to go through all those that are coming up. So
yes.
Okay.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Lindsay. We're going to go to agenda item number 10, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-053, City of Bisbee. Lindsay will lead the discussion.
Thank you. So we have the City of Bisbee. I will keep my comments brief on each of these, but I'm happy to go into more details if there's questions, just because we have a large agenda for you today. But 10.1 for the City of Bisbee, they are requesting just over $1.9 million for their project, which includes a gravity flow pipeline, a below ground tank wet well, pumps, discharge manifold, and other equipment for their pump station, which they plan to to convey treated effluent approximately 14 miles to a recharge facility. The Water Supply Committee did recommend board approval on this on a split committee vote with 3 approving and 2 disapproving. And we do have applicant representatives if the board has any questions.
Do we have any questions for Lindsay? Ted?
Sure. Try not to digress too much. So I'm a member of the Water Supply Development Committee, and our committee met here a couple of weeks ago to consider these items that are on the board agenda today. The first two, both by the city of Bisbee, we had at the previous Water Supply Development Committee and asked a question about whether or not this was a single project or two projects because the applications were submitted as two separate projects. And so the staff went and did some more analysis and came back and said, we really cannot verify that these are indeed two separate projects, because if it was one, then the aggregate amount that was being requested would be over the $2 million limit. And so based on that, we did consider that these two separately, but made the determination as a committee that $2 million was the limit, and decided, as you can see, and as Lindsay communicated, that the first one was approved on a split vote, and the second one was rejected by the committee, and that's a recommendation. So the reason I'm even bringing this up is I was a maker of the motion on the first one. It was passed on a split vote, 3-2. Preparing for today's meeting, however, I did go back and listen to the recorded transcript of the committee meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago, and I am persuaded by some of the things that were said after we had the vote on the first item that were communicated by other committee members on the second item about whether or not there was indeed a benefit to the water supply for Bisbee, and particularly if one project was going to be done without the second one, and so on and so forth. So a little bit embarrassingly, this was in the context of comments that I made at that meeting that said, I'm not in the habit of doing one thing in a committee and then doing something else in the board meeting, but I meant something different than what I'm about to say, which is that I'm not going to try to convince my fellow committee members or board members of one thing and be on the losing end of that and come and make another try and take up everybody's time to do that again. That's what I was talking about. Not about changing my mind like this on something based on comments that occurred subsequent to a previous decision that I had made. So I am going to change my vote when we get to that on this item from what I voted in the committee, just to let everybody know.
Thank you very much, Ted. Oh yeah, we're gonna go online. We're gonna go to Sue first and then David.
I think you voted nay, but.
I lowered my hand. Thank you very
Okay.
much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, David.
Yeah, my question again goes toward what our overall sum total of loans that are going to be repaid versus those that are forgiven. And, you know, it looks like everything of the first 7 here we're forgiving 100%. And I thought I'd heard something different from Lindsay earlier about the total that we're going to forgive of these that we're considering now, or they call it again forgiveness grant, same thing. Because this one's 100% forgiveness. So is the next one on Bisbee. So I mean, so is Cedar Grove, Lord, Yuma, Cottonwood, Cochise. They're all 100% forgiveness. How I thought we were going to try to start moving into loans that had a greater percentage of repayment. That's all. And what's the calc? How long can we continue to do that, and then still have a revolving fund?
Director McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Beckham, I think your point is very well taken. One of the reasons that this board will continue to see, at least in this round and probably the next round of water supply development revolving fund applications, so much on the full grant side, is that we are doing our best to go down our project priority list in priority. So it makes sense that the highest priority projects will also be the ones with the highest amount of grant associated with them. They're going to have the greatest financial need. They're going to have the most favorable financial assistance index. So that's really why we are to this point where there's been so much grant that's been put before this board. As we go down that list, we'll start to see obviously more of the loan component. We also have the mandate by this board to essentially cut off the grant availability once we've reached that $60 million threshold, and allow you to come back and look and determine whether that is the right way to go about making this fund sustainable, or whether you want to change course on that. So it is not necessarily that we are only presenting grant to you because that's all that we have, but it really is based on the priority list and the ranking of priority of the projects.
David?
And we're not at the 60 million then, apparently. I thought we would be really close. Just
We're
pure
not
money.
yet, that is correct. We're not yet at the 60 million. Lindsay, will you remind me of the number? If every application approved today goes forward, what number will we be?
We would then be at awarded 43.6 million in grants and then 11.45 million in loans.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Pete?
So this is what we had all kind of expected was going to happen, right? Which is the rubber's meeting the road. We don't, when we're operating in kind of like this real-time environment, we have to make some decisions as we go. But that means that at some point in time, we're going to run out. And so we're kind of rapidly approaching that point. And I just want to point out that this is exactly what we expected. And this is exactly the sausage making that's going to be happening. And so there's going to be some things that we consider as a board in coming weeks and months where we're going to say, man, I wish we had saved some of that stuff. And that's kind of par for the course. It is a natural result of having imperfect information as we are making these decisions in real time. And so I just want to point that out. My desire and my sort of inclination is to be more cautious, right? So that even if that means that we feel a little bit worse in the short term, it means we'll feel better in the long term, that we save these things for kind of that rainy day, if you will. On the Bisbee thing, the fact that a $4 million project was split conveniently into two $2 million projects just to kind of get under the wire is not something that I am particularly fond of seeing. And so that is going to be weighing in my mind as I look at this type of stuff. And just as a message for other folks, please don't play games like that. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Pete.
Mr.
Sue,
Chair.
we're gonna go online to Sue and then we'll come over to you, Richard. Oh, or Buck. Buck, okay, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to relitigate my vote. I was one of those that voted in opposition to this. But really thinking about where the rubber is hitting the road, as Pete Kim talked about, I will say that I do not feel comfortable voting for this again here, and I won't. And it's because in this case, I do not feel that this really fits within the category of a water supply project where they are actually moving water further away from where the Arizona Water Company wells are to the other side of the San Pedro River and discharging this into the alluvial aquifer. So that's why I voted no before. Ted's probably mad at me now because I sort of relitigated my vote, but for those that are on this board that did not participate, I just wanted to put that out there. And in the light of ugly sausage making, this is just one I don't think makes a cut. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sue. Buchanan.
I appreciate the comments that have been made, but I just want to make maybe the alternative perspective is we know that there are a lot of systems, and we as a committee have dived really deep into this question. They couldn't take on more debt, even at a very low interest rate, even cheap money. They simply cannot take more debt on. There's a lot of systems out there in rural Arizona. They have to have the free money. And that was part of the intention when the governor and the legislature signed this bill. I was there. There's a reason why we lifted the cap from 200,000 to 2 million. It was because the intention was to give out free money to systems who needed the free money. And so I appreciate, I really do. I am a fiscal conservative. I want to make this as much of a revolving fund as we can, but recognizing there are real needs in rural Arizona, real needs in rural Arizona. They can't take cheap money. They have to have free money. So it's part of the sausage making. I appreciate that. I just felt like I needed to say that other side. And these are things that we're deliberating very strongly in our committee. So it's my inclination, frankly, that to get the money out to work for these rural Arizona, and if we're going to err on that side, and so we can show the legislature that this money, there's real need out there, and maybe we can continue to get some investment from the state to good projects that need it. I don't want to give good money after bad projects. I certainly don't want to do that. But I think there's real needs out there. I think I just need to recognize that.
Thank you, Buchanan. Sue?
Yeah, I just want to respond a little bit to that and say, I completely agree with Mr. Buchanan. There are real needs in rural Arizona, and there are some systems that 100% have no capability to put another dime more into their systems, and they need funding like this. And that's exactly why this is one that I disagree with, because I think this money would be better spent elsewhere. So I just wanted to say that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Yeah,
Mr.
Richard.
Lunt?
Yes, I agree with the previous comments, and, you know, in committee, we have had some very serious discussions, because, yes, we want to make this a revolving fund, but on a lot of things, but some of these, as it's been stated, it's better to do something out there, because a lot of these systems would not be able to do anything, and they would continue to fight the same problems they've been fighting for years, simply because they don't have the means. And most people know me. Some people call me a tightwad in my business, but I also realize that things have to get done, and this is their only option. And I appreciate the other board members' opinions on trying to make this last as long as they can, because we want that too. But I also, there's a part of me realize, hey, without these funds, a lot of these systems, nothing will be done. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, not to belabor the point, I would just say, one of the questions I really like that Richard asked during the committee is if these systems have gone through a rate increase, and 100% of them are doing that. They're doing their part. So they're trying to raise rates. They're trying to do the thing. They're trying to put skin in the game. And for many reasons, they're behind. And that's a broader policy conversation. I know that the Corporation Commission, for example, has talked a lot about consolidation of small systems and different things like that. And that's a big policy question that we should probably wrap our head around as a state. But even so, knowing that there are a lot of systems out there that, you know, we have cesspools, we have a lot of things that need to be improved out there. And so it's good policy for us to give out some of this money at some point. So sorry to belabor in the point, but I thought I'd put that point on.
I just want to point out that every time a cesspool is mentioned, Karen gets this big grin on her face. For the record, anyway. Pete, you got something else?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the quality of the debate. And, you know, as we wrestle with these questions, it's almost an impossible choice, right? You have to have empathy for the situations that's out there right now. And of course I do. And to temper my earlier comments, sometimes when you're playing games, it's because you have no other choice. And I understand that. The rubber is hitting the road, even as we speak, right now in front of us. And we have to have the wisdom, right? And I get it. The needs of today are dire and they're right in front of us. But you have to balance that with the stories that we don't know yet, right? They're going to be bad too. And I'm just wondering what's going to happen if we spend all the money now for those stories that we haven't heard yet that are going to be just as bad, maybe worse. What are we going to do? So that's the question that I'm wrestling with as I think about my vote.
Appreciate the healthy debate.
Can
Okay,
I,
David. Back to David.
yeah, so I'm back to what Chelsea said, which is that we have a whole pot full of these to review. They've already been sifted through. These are the highest need and have the least ability to pay. This is what I'm understanding now. So these are the worst ones we have in the pipeline, not the worst, but the most in need and least ability to pay in our pipeline right now. The reality is the full grants are almost over. This will take us more than 2/3 of the way. So I understand if that's the way it is, those are the facts. I get that. My question comes back then to still Bisbee. Explain it to me again, the split here and what our cap is per project. Is it playing games here or are they really two different ones? I can't really tell by what I read. I heard what Pete said. So I'm trying to understand the facts really.
Okay, we're gonna look towards Lindsay.
Absolutely. So for reference, we have this application under 10.1 agenda item. This would be related to the pump station and the piping to get to the pump station from the wastewater treatment plant. The second application is agenda item 10.1, and that would be for the reclaim pipeline from the pump station to the actual recharge area in the San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area. So they were applied for under two separate applications. Under our statutes, we have a single, and I forget the phrasing of it, I'm sure Joe can correct me on it, but a single project should receive no more than 2 million in grant funds and no more than 3 million in loan funds for a max out of $5 million total per project is how we understand it.
Okay, so that begs my question to Joe. Are we even complying with the statute by allowing this to be broken up into two?
Hi, Joe Sotelo, General Counsel. Yeah, this was a question that the committee wrestled with, I think, pretty extensively. Unfortunately, the statute isn't going to provide you too much guidance on this, other than what Lindsay's already articulated, is that a loan for a water supply development project cannot exceed 3 million, a grant cannot exceed 2 million. Definition of water supply development projects is incredibly broad and could arguably be used to split this into two projects, but the board would be well within its discretion to look at this and say, we think they're so interconnected and interrelated as to be one.
Mr. Chair.
Hold on. David, go ahead.
No, I'm finished. I got it. It's clear as mud.
Okay, we're gonna go to Buchanan, then Pete, and then the applicants on the, oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna go to Tim first, then we're gonna go to Buchanan, then we're gonna go to Pete, and then the applicant is online. Chair and the floor recognizes Buchanan. I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this has been one of our livelier debates and I greatly appreciate it. When I look at these two applications, I see one project. I see a pump station that, but for a pipeline to convey the water from that pump station, is not a project of its own merit. I don't see any other way to see it than that. And I see a pipeline that without a pump station and a source of water to convey from point A to point B is not a standalone project. So I view them as one project. Whether or not we would fund portion of this project in one or the other application, I have reservations about that as well. But I cannot see a world where this is two different projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Buchanan.
I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, David, to answer your question, I think the committee, by our votes, we decided, or we opined that they were one project. By our votes, you can see that that's what the committee decided, for what it's worth.
And that vote was 3-2 coming out of committee, correct?
It was,
One of them passed 3-2, one of them failed.
Okay.
the other failed unanimously.
It failed unanimously, and I think that that's an indication that the committee saw them as one project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
David, anything else? Sorry. Okay. Pete.
I'm just trying to understand this. Maybe,
Yeah, I just
sorry
thank
if I'm
Buchanan for the
begging the
comment.
obvious question here. If they're one project, then how do we approve half of them?
Applicant might be able to speak to that too.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the board to hold off for a second. I'm gonna recognize Steve Pocken. He's from Bisbee, and he is the applicant.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all and good morning. Yeah, this is perhaps a little bit confusing, but after attending both committee meetings, we have made the decision here at the local level, since this is a consortium of different entities that are doing this project, that we would continue to like to have your help for the project that is currently under discussion. That is the pumps. And we are willing to withdraw the application at this point because after the committee meeting, we thought it was a dead issue anyway, and I was a little surprised to see it still on the agenda for today. Not that I wouldn't like it, but this project is being done by a consortium that includes the City of Bisbee, Cochise County, City of Sierra Vista, Fort Huachuca, Bureau of Land Management, and the Hereford NRCD and the Nature Conservancy. Together, we're known as the Cochise Conservation and Resource Network. We currently have one recharge project that's in operation in Sierra Vista. We have 2 recharge projects, including this one, that are in various stages of development. Plus, we've already completed some stormwater management projects, all of which are designed for to keep the San Pedro River flowing. And I know that there's been a question over time with regard to the distance between where the Bisbee outfall is in relationship to the San Pedro River. So basically the recharge is going through a pipeline to a recharge basin that will be, my latest information is the property we're going to be using is going to be actually on the east side. So we won't have to cross the river to recharge it into the river. We are all part of the same basin. And so there's that. Also, Arizona Water's role in this has increased. We've been working on this recharge project now for several years. Arizona Water has asked to be included to recharge, to put in a recharge basin about a mile away from the Bisbee outfall. We have guaranteed the county project 200 acre feet a year of recharge, and we still have somewhere between 180 and 200 acre feet of additional water that we can supply to Arizona Water Company if and when they build a recharge basin. So the prospect of this thing having a dual use is going to really improve once Arizona Water has made up its mind. So now, as far as the pipes, okay, since I mentioned to you a large number of partners that are doing this project, we're very confident that the pipes going from this pump house to both of those sites are going to be funded by other sources. The total project's going to be somewhere in the vicinity of $12 million when it's all finished. And one pipeline will go along the international border on the Roosevelt easement to a recharge facility near the river. And then the other one will probably just go down the road about a mile. The San Pedro recharge project is a live project. That's happening. The other one is in the talking stages, but this will give us an opportunity to use these pumps for 2 different purposes and not just one. And I know there was also a question in committee, and I believe I heard it coming up this morning. And that is, whether or not that really has a direct benefit. Well, we are all in the same basin. I hate to use the term that a rising tide lifts all boats, but I'm going to use it anyway. A healthy basin is good for the entirety of the basin. So we feel very good that this is a project, along with the other projects that we're doing, will keep the basin and, well, basically keep the river and the Sprinka healthy.
Thank you, Steve. David has his hand up. Are there any other questions aside from David for the applicant? All right, we'll go to David.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make a quick comment that, I know these are great projects. These are projects that are really needed. They're highly beneficial, especially to the San Pedro River. I understand that, and I'm very supportive of the projects. My comments have been really toward our statutory obligation in this authority, the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority. So the fact that you're withdrawing one doesn't mean I don't support that project. I really do, but I think I'm glad you are doing that because I feel like we're then within our authority.
Thank you, David. I'm going to bring it back to the board if there is any additional discussion or questions. And if not, I am going to ask for a motion on agenda item 10.1, which is 2025-053 City of Bisbee Water Supply Development -032 2025 for the amount of $1,992,000. No sense.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Davis.
I was thinking that, you know, in the agenda, in the water conservation grant, we have them split up as unanimous or split votes. Maybe, and it's just a suggestion, I'm okay, but maybe we can do the same for the Water Supply Development Fund. And that way, it might help us in this discussion to know which one had a lot of support, which one had split support, which one didn't get any support in the committee, that sort of thing, but that's just a suggestion.
Okay.
With that, and I recognize that some of the discussions that's already have, I will still make a motion to approve resolution 2025-053 City of Bisbee. I'm ready to support the first one, not the second one, but I'd make a motion.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second as David Beckham.
Thank you, David. We have a motion and a second. I'm going to ask for a roll call on this.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. As a reminder, board members, this does require 6 affirmative votes in order to pass. Mr. Beckham,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Nay.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Horstman,
Aye.
Mr. Kim.
Aye.
Mr. Lunt,
Aye.
Ms. Montgomery,
No.
Mr. Tomyer,
Aye.
and Chairman Lyons.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, the vote was, and staff back me up on this, 7-2.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
thank you, everybody. Agenda item 10.2, we will pull, correct? Okay, we will go to agenda item 10.3, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-063 Cedar Grove Water Supply Development 056 2025 for the amount of $1,493,000. And Lindsay will lead the discussion.
Thank you, sir. So we have the Cedar Grove Water Company. The applicant is requesting funding to upgrade their water infrastructure with a deep well, a 300,000 gallon storage tank, and a new interconnection with the Lord, Arizona water system. The project would also include 2,500 feet of water main, valves, and a SCADA system to enhance the reliability and capacity of the system. The application did qualify for a 100% grant, and the Water Supply Committee did recommend approval for this with a unanimous vote.
So it was unanimous.
It was a unanimous committee vote on this.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, Richard Lund, I would so move.
Thank you, Richard. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second
Human-
the motion.
Patrice, thank you very much. Sue, you were very close. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. We'll go to agenda item 10.4, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-064, Lord, Arizona Water Systems Incorporated Water Supply Development 055-2025 in the amount of $1,400,000. Lindsay, please lead us in the discussion.
Thank you, sir. So the project is to connect the Lord Arizona water system with the Vernon Valley Water Company through the installation of piping. The interconnection would provide additional dependable water production sources for both companies and would also extend the water to current landowners who often have to haul water because they don't have access to the public water system. There will be a booster station constructed as well as SCADA systems and pressure reducing stations. Finally, the LAWS system also has numerous transmission line dead ends, which they plan to connect into a looping system. The application did qualify for a 100% grant, and the committee did recommend approval with a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, Sue Montgomery,
Thank you,
motion
Sue.
to approve agenda item 10.4, financial assistant resolution 2025-064, Lord Arizona Water System.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Patrice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Mr. Satelli, I'm going to declare a conflict of interest on item 10.5 as I am a member of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors and they are co-applicant. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Kim for this item.
Help me out on this. Where do I read?
So we are on this one right here. So Lindsay will introduce the application and then you can just ask the committee for discussion with the green.
Okay. Ms. Jones, please continue.
Thank you, sir. So 10.5, we have Yuma County with resolution 2025-065. The request is for $2 million, which qualified for a 100% grant. The application is for Yuma County in partnership with their nonprofit organization they're working with to provide 200 low-income households hydro panels, which are drinking water supply systems. The systems are estimated to produce up to 60 gallons per month of clean drinking water by extracting moisture from the air, which would provide reliable water sources for the systems for the individual households. The committee did vote unanimously to not recommend approval on this application. And then I will also just note we have similar applications for two other agenda items for hydro panels.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Questions? Mr. Cook?
Well, maybe it would be helpful for the board members that were not part of the committee discussion to understand why this item was voted down unanimously.
Thank you, because I'd like that, because I was about ready to raise my hand, so thank you.
And so hopefully other committee members will step in if I get something wrong. But this discussion applies also to item number 7 on this, or 10.7, and also in a different way on item 10.9. So the unanimous rejection of this one, and also number 7 by the committee was basically that while the technology was interesting, this distillation technology that would for these, and it sounds very Scroogey, but for us to reject these, but would supply about I think it was 2 gallons per day for the 2 panels that would be set up for each of these 200 locations, and different amounts for the other 2. And it would only supply them basically minimum recommended amount of drinking water for these water users. But they still would, we concluded, be required to haul water because there's no other water source. They would still be required to haul water for other needs. So if that was the case, would it make any sense at all to go and spend this money, which is in short supply, to do the one thing but not eliminate the other thing? So that is why number 5 and number 7 were rejected. Number 9 differs a little bit, and it was actually approved by the committee, and we'll get to that, because there is another supply, and these panels would just be a way to bolster that existing supply. It becomes a now integral part of a water supply into a system that is inadequate and can be improved somewhat, unlike the other 2.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, for that question. Are there any other questions for staff? Okay. Any public comments?
None received, Mr. Chair.
Additional board discussion? Seeing none, may we have a motion on agenda item 10.5 for financial assistance resolution 2025-065?
Mr. Vice Chair or Acting Chair or
Yeah.
Mr. Kim, whatever you prefer.
Yes,
This is Tim. I would move
go ahead.
to advance the recommendation of the committee to deny this application.
Do I hear a second?
I will
This is
second that.
David Beckham, I'll second.
Okay, hearing a motion and a second, let's go for a vote.
Ready to roll call?
Yep.
All right. As a reminder, board members, this is a motion to deny the application. Mr. Beckham,
To approve the denial of the application.
Correct.
You love a double
Approve the
negative
denial.
here.
Yes.
So a yes vote is a vote to deny.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Horstman,
Aye.
Mr. Kim,
Aye.
Mr. Lunt,
Aye.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Mr. Tomier.
Aye.
And Chairman Lyons is abstained. Mr. Chair, the vote is unanimous to deny.
Okay, and we will bring back in the chairman now. Thank you for that unprompted, unscripted.
Yeah.
You handled it beautifully.
You're ready to take over. Thank you, sir. All right, we're gonna go to agenda item 10.6, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-066, City of Cottonwood, Water Supply Development, 012-2025 for the amount of $546,790. Lindsay, please lead the discussion.
Thank you. So the city of Cottonwood is requesting funding for a project for a groundwater recharge through an injection well, which would help to mitigate groundwater pumping from the regional aquifer. They believe implementing annual recharge of effluent will offset a portion of their current pumping and reduce localized depletion of the aquifer within the city of Cottonwood and would help to minimize the potential impacts to the base flows of the Verde River. The application did qualify for 100% grant, and the Water Supply Committee did recommend approval with a unanimous vote.
All right, any questions from the board? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd make a motion that we approve the financial assistant resolution 2025-066, City of Cottonwood, 012-2025 in the amount of $546,790.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, Sue Montgomery, second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries. Agenda item 10.7, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-067, Cochise County Water Supply Development -024, 2025, in the amount of $1,941,165. Lindsay?
Thank you, sir. So similar to the previous application for hydro panels, we have Cochise County proposing to install 225 hydro panels for qualifying households. Again, it would produce up to 60 gallons of clean drinking water per month by extracting moisture from the air. And similar to the previous one, this application was recommended with a unanimous vote for denial from the Water Supply Committee.
All right. Any questions from the board? If not, may I have a resolution? And do you want to clarify again what they're voting for? A yes is to deny, correct?
Depends on the
All right.
motion.
It depends on the motion, right?
Mr. Chair, Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
Tim, I would move to advance the committee's recommendation to deny resolution 2025-067.
Do we have a second?
I will second that, Richard Lott.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 10.8, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-071, Town of Duncan Water Supply Development -046, 2025 in the amount of $802,125. Lindsay.
Thank you, sir. So the town of Duncan is requesting funding to produce a preliminary engineering report, or PER, in order to support the future development of a wastewater reclamation facility to help advance the town's goal of achieving full wastewater connectivity and water reclamation for the Gila River recharge. Additionally, the town is requesting funds to connect 150 residences in the Hunter Estates currently on septic systems to their municipal sewer system and to reline their current wastewater lagoon facility. The application does qualify for a 100% grant, and the Water Supply Committee did recommend approval with a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Lindsay. Do we have any questions from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, Richard Lund, I would move for the approval of Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-071, Town of Duncan, WSD-046-2025 in the amount of $802,001 and $125.
Thank you, Richard. Do we have a second?
Second, Patrice.
Thank you, Patrice.
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Agenda item 10.9, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-072. Why Domestic Water Improvement District, not why, but you know, why Arizona? I always take a picture when I go through, why Arizona? Water Supply Development -025-2025 in the amount of $671,269. Lindsay.
Thank you. So this application is, again, it's for the hydro panel systems. This one is for the Y-DWID, who is proposing to install hydro panels at 75 of the households that they serve within their system. The committee, this application qualifies for 100% grant, and the Water Supply Committee did recommend approval of this with a unanimous vote. And I believe Mr. Cook already very eloquently put the reasons why the committee did view this one slightly different than the others, as this was a water provider looking to access a backup redundant source for the homeowners in their system. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Tim.
Thank you, Chair. And mine is more of a comment. So I'm not, I don't serve on that committee. So I just wanted to weigh in at this point to say I will be supporting this one. And I definitely support us investing in this technology in the right circumstance. And it sounds like this one fits the criteria that Ted outlined, or Member Cook outlined earlier. What I'd also say is there probably is a future where having this type of harvested, safe drinking water supply, even in areas that have abundant water supply, could be of value because of the types of contamination that are prevalent throughout that are threatening many of our traditional water supplies. So there could be a future where delivering 100% of the water at the tap that's safe to drink becomes more and more expensive every year. But having the water be delivered and reliable, and then also having an augmented supply that is for drinking, that is at the house, could be of tremendous value. So I'm very much in favor of investing in this technology in the right location, and I think we have it. And I think in the future, we may be looking at the more of a demand for this type of an approach for water security. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add, I know we have a long agenda, but I do want the committee to understand DEQ had a significant issue with the Y-DWID last year when the single well that supplies the system failed and repairs were not able to proceed for a number of reasons, mostly supply chain, but also financial. And they were hauling water for a period of time, and it was quite a significant crisis. There's a very small community here, as is noted in the materials, but there's also a border patrol facility in the vicinity. It is important that this system is stabilized. We looked everywhere for money to help them, including, emergency funds from, our Department of Emergency Management because of the proximity to the Border Patrol. It was quite a struggle to get them the money they needed just to haul water. This is an example, just one of the challenges that are out there in these tiny, tiny systems that we regulate. I'm very pleased that the board is considering this, and I agree with Member Tomier that this is something that we'll probably see more of. Our drinking water staff needs to understand this better, and we will be diving into that, but it's very worthy, particularly in this situation. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. David?
Mathematically, this is the by far the most expensive water we will have ever approved. I was just doing the calculations. If this thing actually produces 60 gallons per month for over 75 homes over 30 years, and we spend $671,000 on it, it's basically $134,000 per acre foot. So it's hugely expensive. That being said, I'll follow Tim's comment. This is new technology. It's not a whole lot of money in the absolute term. And it's, I think, worth it as an experiment to see how it works and what we can learn. So for that reason, I will be supporting it.
Thank you, David. Ted, do you want to make any comments?
No, I don't think so. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was an interesting discussion at the committee, with this one just happening to come third on the list after talking about the other two, that the committee was able to ascertain that, as Director Tomier said a moment ago, that in certain circumstances, this technology makes a lot of sense, and that we could have a separate discussion focused on the specific needs of this particular applicant without being influenced by our earlier discussions about how it completely did not make sense.
Thank you. All right, bring it back to the board and entertain a motion.
Chair, my microphone is still on, if I might.
Yes.
I will move that the board approve financial assistance resolution 2025-072Y Domestic Water Improvement District for $671,269.
Mr. Chair, this is Tim. I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. Item 1010, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-075, Town of Parker, Colorado River Sewage System Joint Venture, Water Supply Development -048-2025 in the amount of $5 million. Lindsay.
Thank you, sir. So we have this application, which is for the Town of Parker in coordination with the Colorado River Indian Tribe, who have formed a Colorado River Sewage System Joint Venture. They own and operate their system as a joint venture, which is a wastewater treatment system, which is in need of upgrades and repairs. The project would include installation of a sludge thickening and disposal systems to improve waste management, backup power to ensure continuous operations, and support climate resilient upgrades to protect against environmental stressors. This application for $5 million would be recommended with $2 million grant and $3 million loan recommendation. The financial capability was reviewed by our loan officers, and it does appear they are able to take on this amount of debt. The Water Supply Committee did recommend approval for this at a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Lindsay. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I would so move that we approve agenda item 1010, Financial Assistance Resolution 2025-075, Town of Parker, in the amount of $5 million, 2 million grant, 3 million loan, right?
Yep. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, Sue Montgomery, second.
Thank you, Sue. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries. A little bit of housekeeping. We're gonna go back to item 10.2 and formalize our resolution on that matter. And I would entertain a motion on item 10.2. That's the second of the two panel discussions.
Mr. Chair, this is Tim. I would move the committee's recommendation to deny resolution 2025-054.
Thank you. Tim, do we have a second?
I will second that. Richard Lunt.
Thank you, Richard. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. And we're gonna go to the Water Supply Development Grant Application Fund status, and Lindsay's gonna lead us in that. And then you can roll right into 12 as well.
And it's actually Water Conservation Grant Fund.
Yes.
We have so many fun statuses to
Yes.
update. So very, very fun couple of months here for staff, and I know our committee, we kept very busy on this fund, but very exciting times. We did get awarded additional grant funds from the governor's office, so had 14.1 million of water conservation grants to award out in new projects. Just a note for the board, this is still ARPA funds, so we still have a deadline to spend the funds, still have federal procurement. That was a large part of the committee's discussion, is the timing and feasibility of some of these projects to be able to spend the funds. But we did definitely get a very robust application process going. So we had over 60 applications applied for a total of over $55 million in requests, which was really great to see. We're really excited about it, but it does also mean that there's a lot of hard choices now in front of the board to make. The Water Conservation Grant Fund Committee did recommend approval on a portion of the applications, resulting in just over 12.4 million in recommendations for approval. And additionally, I'll just note that the amount of water savings that we're seeing from this 60 applications is anywhere between 900,000 to 1.4 million acre feet over their lifespan. So really excited to be adding on some additional ones, as well as looking to the future for when we can fund all of the other ones that don't get funded today. So I'll take any questions if there are any.
Do we have any questions from the board? All right. First and foremost, Lindsay, thank you. Appreciate all the work. I'd like to thank everybody on the Conservation Grant Committee. I know you've had a tough job considering close to $60 million in applications. As you see them laid out before you, you have them in the order of ranking recommendation from the committee. There were 16 applications which were unanimously recommended for approval by the committee, and those are on the agenda from items 12.1 through 12.16. And the board has the option to vote on these applications as a package or to pull specific applications for discussion. And so before we begin board discussion, are there any requests for public comment on these items? And does any member want to pull an application individually? And if not, we're going to vote on these as a package. So public comment first. Do we have any public comment?
We do have one request for public comment, Mr. Chair, and that request comes from Paul Jewell. He's asking to speak on items number 26 and 29. So Garrett, I'm going to have you move to 26 on the list if you don't mind. And Mr. Jewell, I saw you just a minute ago. All right, so Mr. Jewell, I've enabled your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to make your public comment on both agenda items, and I will cut you off. I'm not trying to be rude, just trying to keep everything going along. So whenever you're ready.
100%, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure you can hear me. I had issues last time.
Yes.
Outstanding. So speaking on two, I'm going to start with Sierra Pacific. Forgive me if I don't have the exact number correct. You know which ones I'm speaking about, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So based on my understanding of the last committee meeting, regarding the Water Conservation Fund, the utility, or I'm sorry, the committee indicated that they did not believe that the utility met federal procurement guidelines. So I do want to touch on that here in a moment, but I think more importantly, we did install 272 meters within the system. There were no meters previously. Now, at some point in the last 20 years, one of the utility owners and they do have their own utility. So they have a well treatment system, wastewater treatment on the property. So they brought the service line that fed these trailers up to the ground, galvanized, and then ran service lines back down. So everything came up above ground about 24 inches, which was a constant problem with breaks. They also encased those service lines in concrete, approximately 4 bags. So this was a major undertaking to get all this concrete out without breaking the lines and then install meters. We were able to complete this in 3 days with one mop-up day to deal with some issues. Now, this is what we've found since we've installed these 272 meters. In 1 week, this utility has consumed 1 million gallons of water. That's approximately 3,676 gallons per week per customer. Just incredibly high. The low flow consumption, which the meters we installed actually will read down to a 16th of a gallon. So between a 16th of a gallon and a quarter gallon, which general positive displacement meters, multi-jet will not pick up this low flow. We are seeing, let's see here, my numbers are showing, in this low flow, we have used it annualized out, if not addressed, 1.4 million gallons worth of water. And that's just on the low flow that would traditionally not be registered. So far, we've seen about 469,000 in the different increments of ranging from 0 to a 16th of a gallon, from a 16th to an 1/8 of a gallon, and from an 1/8 to a quarter. Annualized out is 1.4 million gallons, which we're going to cut that out now that we actually have meters. We can see the consumption. Let's see here. Now, as far as, so we can see that this is actually making an impact. The meters are American made and assembled in Colorado Springs. The labor far exceeded Davis-Bacon wages, and the system has attempted to get this project completed over the last 10 years. They couldn't either not get contractors to bid on it just because of the nature of the project, or the proposals were so astronomically high that it wasn't even feasible to do it.
And that's your time.
Did I speak on the second one, or is that for both?
That was for both.
Okay. Real quick, the Picacho Peak, the committee said that they didn't believe we could do this in a year's time. The projection is this project will be completed in 1 week.
I apologize. I've got to cut you off.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm coming back to the board. Does the board wish to pull any item 1 through 66 individually?
Sure.
2 hands up in the front.
Okay. Ted?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On 2 of these, I don't necessarily want to pull them, but would make a comment that I'm going to actually make later on some other projects as well. A number of the projects that we have for consideration today, and if you look at the applications, you will see that there are check boxes for what's the main supply. Is it Colorado River supply? Is it groundwater supply? Is it other? So there are a number that have Colorado River supply checked as one of, or the only supply that is being conserved. I did make some comments as part of our last round of conservation, is that if we're conserving Colorado River water, how are we accounting for that? How do we know it's conserved? Where the heck is it? And can we get it back for some other use? Some of the smaller ones, like the 2 that appear on this list of the first 16, number 9, Northwest Fire District, and number 13, Vale Water Company, are probably too small for my comments to really be applicable. So I'm not recommending that we pull them from this list if we want to consider them separately. I don't, but I do want to make those comments on Colorado River, and I'll come back later on some that are more substantive. The other one though, that I just have a question and may not need to pull it if the question could be answered. It's number 16. Pinedale Estates Domestic Water Improvement District. There were some notes in the comments from the committee that this cost was relatively high and it's a large expenditure for this size of a system. This is in the opinion of the committee. I am wondering if there's an answer why this particular implementation is about 50% higher per unit of
Isn't that the way-
conservation than similar ones that we see on this same list.
The way I see it, it's a reflection of the previous.
Nice, easy question.
I can certainly look into it. I mean, the cost per acre foot is gonna be largely based on what their estimated water savings is, so it's likely their estimate was very low. And actually, let me have it right here. So they estimated 1 acre foot annually per year, which is why the acre foot, dollar per acre foot is so high.
Okay, well, then we don't need to take it off.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I also on 9, I'd like to discuss that. For the main fact, we did this once before to the same group. And if it's experimental to learn, I don't know why and I know there's not a whole lot of money there, but you know,
Do you want to ask a question now or do you want to pull it for separate consideration?
pull it for separate consideration. And believe me, I hate to go against committee because the committee, I know how hard they work. But I think, to me, it's important, ratifications that we do pull this.
Okay, so would you make that motion?
And are we talking about the first
You can
16?
take it off? Okay, all right, just pull, okay, we'll pull that.
Okay.
All right. So coming back to items 1 through 16,
Okay.
And I
With-
would clarify too, Mr. Chair, that this is an appropriate time to pull items from any of these categories.
yes,
As opposed to just the item.
yeah.
Okay, with that, I'd also like to,
Well, I did say 1 through 66.
okay, and so I would like to pull, item, number 28. Also, item number 41. Item number 43. Item number 52 and 53. And,
Joey, you taking notes?
I am.
Okay,
That was 28, 41, 43, 52, 53.
And 9.
and, also, 55.
5.
Is that all?
5.
I should have limited you to 2.
Yeah.
Ted,
Then thank you for clarifying which numbers we're looking at here. So in that case, I would like to separately consider number 17, number 20. I have a question about 21, and I can come back to that when I finish the poll list. Number 23, if that's not already on the list. Number 25.
Oh, yeah, I missed 17. Thank you.
And number 26. And then for a different reason, I would like to pull number 28 to discuss that.
We do have that.
We do already have that one, okay. So coming back then to the one that I just have a question that might be able to be answered is that number 21, Town of Queen Creek, it is the only turf removal project that had some kind of recommendation for approval. And I understand that the committee went in priority order and this just happened to show up there and then the rest of them were all on 27 through 66, which was, hey, we ran out of money. So this is what it looks like to me. We ran out of money, so we're just going to make a recommendation to not approve the rest for which we have no money at this point. So I was wondering, other than its placement on the list, number 21, why did this single turf one get approved and the other one's different? Because there were some things that were brought up on number 21 about, well, what does this do to kids' bodies and heat and chemical leaching and some other things. So I was curious about, and if we need to pull it for to
Let's
discuss
pull it.
that,
Let's
then,
pull it.
then we can do that.
And I'm happy as well, Mr. Chairman, if I may to answer that question at least summarily, and that is Mr. Cook, the committee mentioned multiple times and highlighted about this project that it was an extension of a successful rebate program, that the applicant was very well poised to get the money out in the rebate program very quickly, and that because of the success of the prior program, they prioritize this wanting to see that success continue. So that is unique in this turf removal category, and that it was one of our only, may have been our only turf rebate in this
Well,
particular round.
that satisfies me then, and I don't need to pull this one if nobody else does.
Okay, perfect. So let's
Mr.
take,
Chair,
yes. Oh, I'm gonna recognize Tim first and then Buchanan.
Mr. Chair, since we're talking about the full list, I need to just reiterate my conflict of interest with number 60.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Buchanan?
I just have a question. So if we were to approve, and maybe this was talked about, I stepped out for 2 seconds, but, if we were to approve all of the ones that the committee, recommended for approval, we have sufficient funds for that?
Yes.
Yes.
And we'll come in just under the wire and have about $1 million?
Yes.
$1.2 million to consider?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that was the question. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mr.
Tim.
Chair, sorry, just clarification. Does that include the split votes?
No,
It does include the approval of the split votes. It does not include split votes for disapproval.
correct.
Yes. So it includes unanimous votes for approval and
And
split
split
votes for
votes.
approval.
That is
Anything
correct.
within a recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Sue?
Mr. Chairman, just need to let you know that I need to abstain from item 2.
Okay, thank you. So let's take these in the order that they were proposed. Well, in the actual order.
Yeah.
Of their numbers enumerated.
And so I will just state this for the record, so that way everybody sort of knows where we are and what we're doing. Board members have opted to pull for individual consideration, items 12.2, 12.9, 12.17, 12.20, 12.23, 25, 26, 28, 41, 43, 52, 53, 55, and since we have a conflict, we're gonna pull 60 anyway.
All right, let's go to item number 2 first.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
if you would indulge me for a
Yes,
moment,
Tim.
would it be valuable to have a motion to move for approval items 1 through 26 with the exception of those pulled?
That will exceed the amount of money that we have available to us, Tim. It's only items
Oh.
1 through 16 on the prioritization list.
Sorry,
Well, and
I
I think actually
I
too,
misspoke.
another reason to wait on that will be that our amounts, if you do opt to approve some of those that we have pulled that are currently disapproved, it may change the ability to do that group motion, Mr. Tomier. So I would recommend taking them individually first, then we can do a group motion based on the ones, how we dispose of the ones that we've pulled for individual consideration.
Okay, I'm not trying to make it hard. I was trying to make it easy and I
No,
misspoke. I
we
meant
appreciate it.
16. I meant 16. And I don't think there's any value in going through anything 30 or above at this point, but I'll follow your lead. Let's go one at a time and I'll just stand down.
Thank you, Tim. And so we're gonna go with item number 2 first.
All right, thank you. So we have item 12.2 for the Yavapai Apache Nation. They did request $3 million to build a new wastewater reclamation facility to produce the Class A+ reclaimed water for the tribal farm irrigation, which would allow local residents to convert from septic to sewer. And I just need to, and the committee did recommend approval for this with a unanimous vote, with 6 approving and 1 abstaining. And did note additional co-benefits of it supporting the Yavapai Apache Nation and helping the Verde River Basin in Yavapai County.
And this was pulled by Tim, or was this pulled by you, Richard?
This was pulled for an abstention.
I just need to abstain here. Yeah,
Okay, all right.
this is Sue.
Is there any additional discussion on this? Do we want to take these separately as they're pulled or lump them back into the 1 through 16?
I would take them separately.
I'll take, okay. So for item number 2, would anyone like to make a recommendation to approve this motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Tim. I move to approve item 12.2.
Do we have a second?
This is David Beckham. I second that motion.
Tim, would you like to clarify that this is the WC-333-2025 in the amount of $3 million?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you very much. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? And any abstaining?
Sue Montgomery has to abstain.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
And board members, just for your reference, we do have Denise who will be keeping track of the total amount approved as we go. So I'll have her give us an update after each vote. Obviously, this is the first one, so we can all do that math of a total of 3 million has been approved.
With a total of 14.
14.1 available, that's correct.
14.1, okay.
And Chairman Lyons, if I may.
Yes.
Just, I'm gonna get out ahead of this because I think we're gonna have some motions that are gonna be coming by today. I will accept any sort of agenda item paired with either the grant resolution and or the application number at the end, that WC number or the grant resolution. You don't have to read the entire title each time you're doing it, just enough specificity so the public knows what you're voting on.
Thank you very much, Joe. Next item, 12.9.
Yes, I was the one that asked for that to be pooled. And my reason is, and I know it's not a whole lot of money, but we have, when we did this before, it was so they could gather data, they could save water. It was so they could show the necessity of these things. And in lieu of how tight the money is, I think that, you know, they have one, they can gather all the data and stuff they need from that, and to have a second one, to me, when there's other needs out there, I just don't think that it would be prudent for this board to accept that.
Thank you, Richard. Do we have any additional discussion? Would anyone like to make a motion on item 12.9?
Yes, I would move that we not approve WC 7-300 2025 in the amount of $90,451.70.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
This is Pete Kim, I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of denial?
Aye.
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 You know what? Let's go to a roll call vote on this, just to verify.
No problem, Mr. Chair. So board members, as a reminder, this is a motion to deny agenda item 12.9. Mr. Beckham,
Hang on. 12.9, I approve denial.
Mr. Cook,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Horstman,
Aye.
Mr. Kim,
Aye.
Mr. Lent,
Aye.
Ms. Montgomery,
Yes.
Mr. Tomier,
No.
and Chairman Lyons.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, by a vote of 8 yes and 1 no, the motion to deny carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to agenda item number 12.17.
Mr. Chair.
And I will recuse myself from this one. Okay,
Mr. Vice Chair.
discussion.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, I was the one, Ted Cook, I was the one who asked for this item to be pulled, and it's with respect to my comments on Colorado River. We have probably, I don't know, 10 or so of Colorado River conservation projects sprinkled through this morning's agenda. But this one is the most prominent because it has a very large number of projected conservation at a very low cost. So it's a superb project from that regard. And there is some somewhat, to me at least, cryptic description about the conserved water could be stored in Lake Mead. Well, and with respect to this particular one, why not? What is going to happen to, and I'm not being critical here, but the Yuma, many of the Yuma districts, and fortunately, Mr. Lyons has had to step out from this particular thing, would know a lot about this, as far as diversions and consumptive use and return flow calculations and things like that. So I'm very concerned, at least on this project, that there's not some affirmative statement that this conserved water will be conserved in Lake Mead. Then I believe that the nature of this district's, or it's actually an association, this association's water use contract is they can divert as much as they want, so long as they do not exceed their consumptive use limitation. So it's not really, I don't think, a case of not being able to have access to the water that they need to grow their crops, etc. Like I said earlier, I did make a comment after we distributed $200 million of conservation grant fund monies in the previous round, that where was all the Colorado River water that had been saved going? I'm not raising a stink on some of these smaller ones, because a smaller Colorado River water user that's, say, inland in central or southern Arizona, that's going to save 300 acre feet over 15 years or something like that. It's not practical to store that water in Lake Mead itself. It's probably going to be, whatever's conserved is going to be used for some other beneficial use, which has great value, and I'm fine with that. But saving 10 or 15,000 acre feet over a period of time ought not to just disappear and not be accounted for as far as what is happening with this conservation. So I don't know what to do about that, as far as ask the applicant to update this. It's a fairly straightforward process to work with the Bureau of Reclamation. It's difficult, but it's relatively straightforward to apply to have either system water, or if qualified, intentionally created surplus to remain in Lake Mead rather than just being used by somebody else with no accountability.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Ms. Jones?
I just want to make sure that we are discussing the right application. So 12.17 is for the Yuma County Water Users Association. We also have 12.53 for Yuma County and their return flow credit maximization project.
No, I'm meaning number 17.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because it had a similar water savings.
Thank you for that clarification. Additional comments from the board? I do believe we have the applicants online for additional comments.
Mr. Cook, would that be helpful?
That would be, because, yeah, I'm sure whoever that might be understands what I'm saying, what I'm asking about.
Do we have that person online?
Mr. Cowan, I have enabled your microphone. You are welcome to speak into the committee in response to any committee member questions. So Mr. Cook, if you'd like to pose a specific question, you're welcome to do so.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just briefly restate it again, is that this particular application, the estimate for the amount of Colorado River water that will be conserved is between 369 and 553,000 acre feet over the lifespan of the project, 50 years at a cost of $4 to $6 per acre foot. So like I said, if those estimates are correct, and I have no reason to believe that they wouldn't be, this is a superb project. A lot of water at a very low cost over a long period of time, being implemented by reputable engineering firm, etc. But I have to find it here in the summary that was prepared by the staff. It says that under benefits, conserves Colorado River water that can remain in Lake Mead, reduces noxious weeds, and preserves riparian habitat for endangered species that rely on the Colorado River. These are all great things, but if we're really going to save 500,000 acre feet or 10,000 acre feet per year, I prefer to see that actually left in Lake Mead rather than just, well, we're not using it, but it's going somewhere else.
Any response from the representative?
This is Charles Cowan. Thank you for having me to the committee and Mr. Cook. I'm not quite sure exactly what the question is. Is it a matter of how can we prove that that water in fact stays in Lake Mead as opposed to being diverted to junior entitlement holders within the state of Arizona?
Right, that's one way to put it. I guess another way to put it would be is why is not the Yuma County Water Users Association taking affirmative steps to conserve its unused apportionment in Lake Mead?
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that, to be quite honest with you, Mr. Cook. This proposal was put together by George Cairo engineering firm, and I'm just here as a representative for the other project, but I can tell you that from my perspective, just like with the other project, any water conserved is water not diverted and water remaining in Lake Mead. That's the best I could answer that for you.
Mr. Cook, perhaps you could suggest what would satisfy you in this regard?
Right. Well, there are a number of other conservation programs that with the Bureau of Reclamation, with the Central Arizona Project, that provide for, well, let me start with one of them. So the Bureau of Reclamation has its so-called Bucket One program. And I understand that the association is not asking for funding from the Bureau of Reclamation. It's asking WIFA for funding to do this project. But under the Bucket One, the applicant with reclamation, the applicant would agree with the Bureau of Reclamation not to order or consume this particular amount of water that's being conserved in exchange for the compensation. And I appreciate that anything unused by a senior water user like Yuma Water Users Association is then becomes available to a lower priority user, and that's the way that those contracts work. However, this seems to be, to me, a lost opportunity for actually changing the order by Yuma County Water Users Association to assure that this water is actually conserved in Lake Mead, like it says, or not conserved for another user's use.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, to be totally fair and honest here. I would relate this to be similar to another project we did many years ago. It's probably been 15 years now, which was with some Bureau of Reclamation funding. And it was to reduce water ordered but not delivered, or WAND water, at the California spillway for deliveries to Mexico. And the way we quantified the savings on that was just by simple looking at diversions over the years. So they were able to, the Bureau of Reclamation tracked our diversions, and they, in fact, were able to verify that we were able to reduce and actually nearly eliminate water ordered not delivered through that project. So I would imagine that this would be the same way. We could quantify that and by looking at our diversions. Of course, understanding that it is very difficult to do that because cropping patterns would dictate that our water users have unquantified beneficial use water rights, which means that they're not set at a cap that we could easily monitor. In other words, this past year's produce season, they could have, to move to this coming produce season, maybe they're doing different cropping, which requires more or less water. So that part becomes extremely difficult. If they were capped off at a certain amount of acre feet, period, then, that would be much easier to show those results.
Right, I
So,
understand that.
I'm gonna insert myself here. This is, just to keep this moving along, there's a lot of discussion on this.
Yeah.
So, and we've got a lot of work to do on a bunch of other things as well. So I'm gonna call for, any additional commentary, final comments on this before I call for a motion?
None here. Thank you, committee.
One additional comment, if I may. Mr. Cook. So I did not intend to hold this up or not vote for it, but I would appreciate a acknowledgement on the part of the applicant, the representative, to at least initiate a conversation with the Bureau of Reclamation and Central Arizona Water Conservation District about how to find a way to account for this conserved water to be accounted for as having been left in Lake Mead. Since this is water that's yet to be conserved, it's not taking anything away from any junior priority water user that is getting this now and has to suddenly stop. So I would be satisfied just with that commitment to go and have those conversations and see if there's a relatively straightforward way to account for this so that we can have 500,000 acre feet saved in Lake Mead rather than who knows.
Yes. So Mr. Cook, as a representative for the association, I can and will commit to having that dialogue.
Excellent. So noted. Do I have a motion?
I will move, Mr. Kim, to that the board approve grant resolution 2025-101 Yuma County Water Users Association for $2,046,282.15.
The 15 cents is very important. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Okay. Let's go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim.
Yep. I did better that time.
Please do.
I was getting a good nap. All right, we are at 12.20.
Thank you, sir. I'll just briefly introduce this. So we have the Wildflower Water Co-op. They did request $18,400 to update their meters with accurate digital meters and add detected system leak infrastructure and backflow devices to prevent contamination. The committee did recommend the full grant amount that the applicant requested, but did clarify they would have to provide the $4,600 match, which the applicant indicated they would be able to provide. The committee also noted that it was relatively low cost, it had groundwater savings, and it benefits a groundwater dependent system. However, they noted the difficulties with having no water savings really identified by the applicant. They did recommend to approve this, which passed on a split vote with 6 approving and 1 disapproving. So if there's.
This is me again. Hold this one. I'll be much shorter on this one. So I am troubled by the committee, what the committee noted is that no water savings have been projected here. We have had other projects that we've approved that is somewhere between 0 and something, but at least there's a possibility or even a likelihood that there would be some water savings. On this one, we're not convinced of it to the point where the staff has put this in as 0 savings. I will just ask the question, are we kidding? Really? A project with no savings when we've got 65 other projects here that are looking to get some funding?
And if I could just respond, I will note that the applicant did indicate, did have a 0 acre feet annually water savings, which is why staff did not attempt to calculate an estimate for them. There is anticipated to be water savings, but we just didn't want to make assumptions on their end to come up with that number.
Any additional questions before the board? Okay. Entertain a motion on item 12 point.
Could we ask the applicant if they, about the water savings?
Yeah, is the applicant available?
If you are the applicant for a wildflower, if you could use the raise hand feature. Mr. Davis, I don't believe we've seen the applicant online today.
But it sounds like it was just, it's just such a small amount, that it's just hard to quantify. That's why we put no.
Thank you, Buchanan. Richard?
There again, all we can judge on is what the applicant puts. And if there's 0, then I don't think you go back to the applicant and say, well, what did you really mean? Otherwise, staff will be going back to applicants time and time again. I know that's harsh, but in all fair play to staff and to the committee, we can only judge what's on the application. We can't guess what they mean. And I know that's sort of hardcore, but I think it needs to be that way.
Point, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Buchanan.
point well taken, but we ask an acre feet, right? And maybe it was less than an acre foot. And so that's why they put 0.
I mean, possibly, they did include an, like a explanation for their calculations, and they just stated that the upgraded meters would be needed to determine the actual water coming from leaks in the distribution system.
Okay.
Additionally, staff did look at their ADWR reported water use and lost and unaccounted for, and just to note, it does look like they have for the system, it's significant, but overall very small. So 0.004 acre feet, which would be 23% of their total use, is lost and unaccounted.
That being said, there's ratios that we can put in here that make these types of things very handy. So if we were to put this in cost per acre foot saved, how much is it?
Well,
There's a big question mark.
you have to
there.
assume the water savings, but if you assume that this project would reduce their loss.
0.004 divided by 18,
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
So
exactly,
What's
yes.
that number?
Denise, can we?
I'm sorry.
She's focused on the dollar.
I'm focused on the other.
I'm just saying, even if it's really small, we can still assign a cost per something, right? So let's do that.
What's the two numbers?
Mr. Chair, while there's a calculation occurring, I would like to announce my departure. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Karen. Appreciate you being here today.
I agree.
0.00.
That being said, if we could do a little bit of math just in time, maybe we can approve this thing.
Just because you like to look at things.
I like math.
That's so fun.
New bumper sticker for the board. I like math. Dude, I think that should be a bumper sticker for everybody.
$306,000 per acre. 4 times 15, and divide that into.
306,000 per acre foot.
Okay, I'm gonna call for the question. On the matter before the board. Would anybody like to make a motion on item 12.20?
Yes.
Okay, Pete.
This is Pete Kim. I move to approve this motion, WC 7-2025.
Do we have a second?
Maybe I'll explain why I moved to approve this.
Would you like to?
Sure. This is a very small amount of water, but that being said, like, it's not 0. I think we just established that. And this is, at some point in time, there's just a certain amounts of money that's necessary to do anything, right? So when you have these small things, you can expect to see big, like, sort of eye-popping numbers, as long as it's not 0 for me, and this is a relatively minor amount of money, I'm okay with it. So,
Thank you, Pete.
and just in the interest of getting the meeting going.
Appreciate that.
And I'll second.
We have a second. I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was that a 3 then?
Let's go to.
Let's go to roll call.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board members, as a reminder, this is a motion to approve and will require 6 votes. Mr. Beckham,
Aye.
Mr. Cook,
Nay.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Ms. Horstman,
Aye.
Mr. Kim,
Aye.
Mr. Lentz,
Nay.
Ms. Montgomery,
Nay.
Mr. Tomier,
Nay.
and Chairman Lines.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, with 5 yes and 4 no, the motion fails to carry.
All right, thank you very much. Well, there's one additional item. Our vice chairman is going to be leaving very shortly. He has a heart out, and so I am going to bring forward the matter of 12.53, and again, I will recuse myself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify, I have to leave at a certain point in time, so I wanted to move this one up so we could do it before I had to leave. So apologies for the slight change in order. Can we please, on the matter of 12.53, get an explanation? Ms. Jones?
Absolutely. So we have agenda item 12.53 for Yuma County, who is requesting just over $1.5 million for their agricultural system upgrades proposal. They are proposing to install 3 new wells and related equipment to deliver pumped water into the Yuma County Water Users Association drainage system in order to receive return flow credits for water right holders. They state that it'll have a positive effect on the agricultural production, as well as providing some relief in areas where there's soil settling and subgrade disturbances that negatively impact the homes and outbuildings. And then the committee did recommend denial of this, and I don't have the votes in front of me.
It was unanimous.
Thank you, unanimous denial for this one.
Yes, okay, so just to make clear, the only reason why this one was pulled out was because there was a conflict on this. The vote in committee was unanimously against. Do I have any commentary on this?
Yes, I'm the one that pulled that. And I guess it's, agriculture gets scrutinized pretty hard. And when they have projects, and look at the amount of acre feet that they're saving. And if you do this accumulative, we have the opportunity to save a lot of acre feet. They're always in the news that agriculture uses 70+% of the water in Arizona. And yet when there's projects that save a lot of acre feet and make them more efficient, we sort of push them to the bottom. And I guess it's more of a statement. There's big savings in some of these projects that the committee denied. And yet, hey, we're going to run out of money before we get to a lot of these. But I guess the point is that's a lot of water.
Noted, sir. That's a lot of water. Any additional commentary? Okay, seeing none, let's call for a vote. Do I have a motion?
I would move that we approve WC 7349 2025 Yuma County upgrade in the amount of $1,553,881.97.
To clarify, you were saying to approve despite the fact that the committee denied. Is that correct, sir?
Right. So yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I have a question. We didn't hear why the committee denied it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's withdraw that motion. You withdraw that motion in order to, okay, that's fine. So we're good anyway. All right. We can reopen it for commentary to address Mr. Beckham's question.
Lindsay, do you want to take first shot at that?
Yeah, so the committee did note the deficiency of it was uncertain if the activity is actually conserving water. And I know there's quite a bit of discussion on what is happening with the water conserved in this application, if it would actually be stored in Lake Mead or be used elsewhere.
Mr. Beckham, did that answer your question?
Sort of. In other words, we don't know.
Yeah.
There were questions, so they denied.
Well, and yeah, I think Mr. Beckham, and this is Director McGuire, I think that the committee's uncertainty about whether this was truly a conservation activity made them very hesitant to approve this particular application. There were some other questions that were brought up as well. I don't know that the committee expressly identified them as benefits and co-benefits, but that really was the main driver of saying this is a groundwater pumping project that would move water from one place to another, but that didn't necessarily equate to conservation in the mind of the committee.
To the tune of a unanimous no vote.
Correct.
Right.
Okay,
Got it, thanks.
Was there a, do you mind? Mr. Vice
Please.
Chair, was there a general theme on these, denials or they were all over the place?
Ms. Jones?
I mean, there's certainly various reasons, especially across the different categories for the denials.
Yeah, I do think it's difficult to draw a true through line, in anything that,
Fair
or in all of the unanimous no's, and it definitely looks very different than the unanimous no's
too,
from the
Salvatore.
last time around, in that this was, I think, less of a value judgment, and sometimes just this was fine, but did not rise to the level of priority, given the relative lack of resources
I
and
gotcha.
comparison to demand.
That's exactly what I kind of wanted to hear is the committee looked at this, said, yeah, good project, could work, but we think this one's a little bit better. We ran out of money. We only had $14 million.
And so I think that's why you still see co-benefits identified on many of the unanimous no's. It simply was a matter of the universe of projects we had versus the funding we had.
I do think that's a valuable insight in the sense that like these weren't rejected just out of hand because they didn't meet the spec. It's just that these guys were trying to, in advance of the expected depletion of the funds, to just say maybe not as good. So that does open some leeway for judgment to be put into these things.
Yeah.
That being said, right, there's a lot of things that were sort of in the sort of maybe category with split votes as opposed to unanimous. So keep all that in mind. That being said, do I have a motion?
And Mr. Chair, hearing what I've heard, that gives me some comfort. And certainly I appreciate what the committee does because I know how hard they work. But I also, to the point that, I would like to know the reasons, and that's why I pulled those, because, there are some big savings there, and agriculture gets scrutinized a lot.
We appreciate that, Mr. Lunt. This is expressly why, right, we have the structure that we do. So thank you for that. I repeat my earlier question. Do we have a motion? Am I allowed to move this? as-
Not while you're acting as chair.
So
Okay,
I will
Mr. Chair,
prevail upon somebody.
Mr. Chair, I'm willing to make a motion.
Please, Mr. Cook.
Mr. Cook. Mr. Chair, I move that the board follow the recommendation from the committee to deny WC 7-349-2025 for Yuma County in the amount of $1,553,881.97.
And I'll second that.
Excellent. Okay, got it. So we have a motion and a second. Let's go for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And we will go to item 12.23. We'll go to item 12.23.
All right. 12.23, we have Friends of the Verde River. They have requested 250,000. Staff did recommend a reduced amount of 210,799.98, which the committee also recommended. This application would be to fund 2 river-friendly living grant cycle periods from October to March of 2026. The committee did note several deficiencies, so they were unsure if the project could be completed within the tight timeline, and there's some concerns about the eligibility and the reimbursement process. And then while the committee did not recommend this proposal for approval, they did note that it was in an AMA for Yavapai County in the Verde River Shed and encourages conservation. The recommendation passed on a split vote with 4 disapproving and 3 approving.
Okay, any questions? Richard, did you pull this one?
No,
Ted, did you pull this?
I must have.
Okay.
Where are the two pullers?
I don't mean to be so flippant about it, but I believe I had made some chicken scratches on this one. I believe I pulled it because of what was brought up here previously, that not so much that's not sure about the private sector. By the time, like, there were a number of projects that concern was raised. I think it's always a concern of ours, because can they do it in time? I tend to ignore that. But concerns about eligibility and reimbursement did concern me. If particularly for this type of project, if the applicant walks in and says, hey, we've got this great idea for a project, but really doesn't have confidence that they're going to be able to get subscribers to actually participate in the program and things like that, I could see why the committee voted no on this on an aggregate basis.
Sue's hand up.
Okay, Sue?
Mr. Chairman, I do have some familiarity with both the Friends of the Verde River and also this river-friendly program. And it number one, they're a solid organization working diligently in the watershed. And secondarily, I can't speak to any details of eligibility, but just to the program, it has been in existence, and there's been a lot of folks that have participated, businesses and individuals. So it's actually raised a lot of awareness about water conservation in the Verde watershed and protecting the Verde River. So I would just little injection there of some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
If you are the applicant that is here to speak on this project, you're welcome to use the raise hand feature, and then I can find you and enable your mic. In the meantime, it looks like Mr. Beckham has a question.
Yes, David.
Yeah, I just wanted to come back again. I think that we concluded earlier that there's enough money available for the unanimous approval projects as well as the split approval projects, correct? And this is a split approval project. Is that correct so far?
This is a split recommended not to approve, actually. And we would actually have enough money, yes, to fund all the way through this list as well.
43.
We do because of a prior denial. So I'm
43.
trying to get to the priorities that the committee had. And my guess is they denied this one, not because it's not a good project, but because they'd run out of money from the projects above. And if we have more money, I'd like to know that when we then come to 23, 24, 25, and 26.
Does anybody want to address that, Lindsay? And we've got that running tally going, right, Denise?
We have the running tally going, and I'll just note that we didn't necessarily task the committee with coming up with exactly 14.1 million as a group. We tasked them individually to come up with 14.1 million that they would want to recommend yes. When it came time to voting, we did have the unanimous yeses, but the unanimous no's, several of those were, or the split vote no's, several were identified by individual committee members as applications that kind of rose to the top of their list of 14.1 million.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the end, they didn't have enough money for these. That's what I'm hearing, and maybe we do now. And it's better to focus on 23, 24, 25, and 26 than it is the ones that they denied unanimously.
Ted first.
Clarification here. So, and this is back to member Beckham. I believe that the description of 23 through 26 is they ran out of money is not correct. That everything through number 27 would actually fit under 14.1 million. So notwithstanding that we may have disapproved a couple of the smaller ones that are higher up on the list, it's not very much dollars. So I don't think, so I'm disagreeing with your description of these projects as that they were voted down because of lack of funds. That's not true.
Ted, I was just trying to get what the facts are. I was trying to regurgitate back what I thought I'd heard. So in the end, if we approve all the projects above, up in, I've got to go, I only have one screen, so I have to keep flipping back and forth, but projects above 1 through 16 and we have some money to approve the split projects, correct?
We
So
do,
we're
including the
bouncing
one-
around so much, it's really hard to see, for me to understand where we are. Do we want to spend the full amount of money this meeting? Is that our goal?
Because it's ARPA funds,
Yes.
we need to commit them, otherwise there's a risk of losing them, David.
Right.
And Mr.
Okay.
Beckham, I might suggest as well, understanding that the agenda is listed in the ranked order of the committee. Perhaps it's more helpful to look at it that way instead of focusing on the split versus not. Just take them in the ranked order that the committee gave you. So the committee
Alright,
ranked
so-
these 1 through 66, and as Mr. Cook pointed out, if you were to go down the list of the committee's ranking, that would include both the sum of this, that would include all of the split disapprovals and at least one of the unanimous disapprovals would add up to that 14.1.
Okay, so we do have enough money for this project if we approve all the ones above it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay, that goes to my deference to the committee to a great extent. All right,
David, anything else?
no,
Okay, for the record, I want to note that Pete Kim has left the meeting. And Patrice, recognize you.
Yes, thank you. And with that clarification, and given the fact that we do have 14.1 million that is ARPA funds that I think we do have, quite frankly, responsibility to get out there and to do some good for these communities. And so with that, I would make a motion to approve WC 7-336-2025 in the amount of $210,799.98.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Sue and David.
Yep.
Appreciate that. It was a tie.
Clarification,
Yes.
what was the reason why the committee gave that they did not approve this?
No, it was approved on a split vote. It was a
This is
4-3.
a
Yeah, but they had a concern.
Well,
Split disapproval. Yeah,
disapproved,
yes.
4-3, yeah.
They had a concern, and what was the concern?
So the concern they noted was the concern with the timeline and then concerns about eligibility and reimbursement under the ARPA reimbursement process.
So essentially administratively being able to comply.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We're gonna go to item 12.25. And that was on a split vote, 6-1, disapproved.
Mr. Chair,
Ted,
I'm going to take responsibility for pulling this one, whether or not that's true.
okay?
I did.
I think I did.
All right.
And I noted that on this one, 6-1 against. And the primary concern was something that's very familiar to all of us. This looks like O&M. And I trust the judgment on this one of the committee that I believe it is O&M primarily, and there might be some savings, but that's not the primary purpose of doing this project. The primary purpose is it's necessary maintenance,
Okay,
in my opinion.
all right. Are there any other questions from the board? I do not see any hands. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'll move that the board follow the recommendation of the committee to not approve item number 1225, Graham County Electric Cooperative, WC 7-338-2025 in the amount of $250,000.
Mr.
We have
Chair,
a motion? Yes.
a second? Sorry.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? It is approved for denial. Then we'll go to item 12.26. And who pulled that one? Ted, you can take responsibility for that too? Okay. All right.
Pulled so many on this list.
primary, objections from the committee, this it was 6-1 to disapprove, was that relatively, well, let me yeah, some of the things. Large project for a system of this size, large project for a system of this size, large cost per acre, for acre foot. And so I can understand why the committee, getting close to running out of money, would say, no, this one really doesn't really rise to the level that ought to be approved. So I tend to agree with the committee's recommendation on this one.
Okay. Do we have any other discussion from the board? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ted.
We'll move that the board follow the recommendation of the committee on item 1226, Camelhead Associates LLC, DBA Pacho Peak RV Park, WC 7-301-2025, in the amount of $205,151.26.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, Sue Montgomery, second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. Next item is 12.28, Gila Valley Irrigation District. Who pulled this one?
I pulled this one.
Okay, Richard,
There again,
explain yourself.
explain, and there again, this is a ag, it has significant savings. It's also in an area where the adjudication, the water's very tight there, and they're improving, and you're talking about anywhere from 50,000 to 75,000 acre feet saved, and to me, that's significant, especially when in areas where water's very tight and there's a lot of adjudication. So I would like to know why, so I don't have egg on my face like the last one, why the committee felt like this should be approved.
And Lindsay, before you answer anything, or you want to hear that, Patrice? Okay, okay.
So the conservation committee did recommend to deny this one. They had concerns of providing funds for a specific irrigation supplier, especially regarding federal procurement guidelines, which was a kind of repeating concern of the committee for various applications. They did note specific co-benefits, though. They said that it was a great cost per acre foot and large volume of water saved in a stressed area for the Gila River and a good return of investments. So I think it most likely just was one that didn't rise to the top. It is a larger dollar size as well.
Thank you, Lindsay. Patrice?
Yes, and thanks, Chair. And here's my concern. First of all, we have before us, and we pulled items. So we're going through the items that are somewhat controversial. We now have an item that may be something we want to consider, but it's almost $3 million. And I do not want to short the subcommittee, or the subcommittee made a recommendation unanimously for 1 through 16. Now, we went ahead and denied number 9. I think what we should do is, since nobody else has a problem with any of the other items on the 1 through 16, which were unanimous, that we should at least pass those so we know how much money we have left before we start going to more of the quote controversial ones from the subcommittee. I want to recognize the subcommittee's ranking. I think they spent a lot of time on this. You're right, it takes a lot of work to go through these. And I want to recognize the work and the recommendations made. And I'd like to have a vote on those items that were unanimously passed before we look at these other items. I'm afraid what we're going to do is we're going to take a lower priority item and pass it because we have taken that before we've even considered the ones that were unanimously approved.
you can choose to table this till later in the meeting if that's what you're choosing to do. You can also choose to table it obviously later then, but I understand the question to be, can you just table this discussion right now and move back to the unanimous package? And the answer is yes.
Okay, so I will make that decision right now. I appreciate that recommendation from Patrice. Oh, sorry. All right.
Well,
David?
well, that's what I was getting out earlier. I felt like we were jumping around. So I'm 100% in support of that. We got to prioritize this and go, let's get 1 through 16 except 9 done.
Okay. Tim, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I tried to say that a while.
One second, time out.
Sorry.
Okay. All right, Tim, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. I agree. I tried to say it earlier. She said it better than I did.
Well, that's
Mr.
she's
Chair-
from North Arizona. No. Just kidding, Tim.
The only thing is I think some of our purposes in pulling items out was to see if we agreed with the committee and that could, you know, if, for example, since the item we're on is 2028, if we were to approve almost $3 million, then that would not allow us to do the 16. And so that's why we're having this discussion to see, just to kind of fill out and to maybe gut check us to see if we do agree with the ranking that was given to us by the committee. So I just put that out there.
Thank you, Buchanan. We're going to go back to David and then Tim again and then Sue.
Actually, I said my piece. I don't know why I hit my hand if I did again.
All right, thank you, Tim.
I think I'm in the same boat.
Okay, Sue, did you remove your hand?
You're on mute.
I didn't mean to remove my hand. I agree with Patrice on this. I think we really need to just the remaining 1 through 16 because those were unanimous approval. And then we can move to other items.
Hang on one second.
Just to tell the general counsel, is the question, do you need a motion to go back and procedurally do this? No, as chair, you have prerogative.
Okay.
I would want to handle those items. You are free to bounce around.
I do want to recognize the work of the committee. Yes, and I've stated that. Okay, and so as is my prerogative, I'm going to go back and consider a motion on items 1 through 16 minus 9.
If I may,
And
Mr.
number 2.
And number 2.
Okay, this is David Beckham. I move to approve 1 through 16 minus 9.
And 2.
And 2.
You've already voted on 2.
Is it and 2? Okay,
Yes.
correct. Okay. Well, we already approved 2.
Yes. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
These are
Any
the,
abstentions?
they've unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries, and we're going to take a 5-minute recess while Denise adds everything up.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.
And would recommend that you do another.
Just to see who's here, Richard?
All right, so Chairman, this is, or
Let's go to
board
the voting, let's
members.
go to the voting members.
We'll go to the voting members. So Mr. Beckham,
Present.
Mr. Cook,
Like a powder.
Mr. Davis,
Present.
Ms. Horseman,
Present.
Mr. Kim, Mr. Lunt,
Present.
Ms. Montgomery,
Here.
Mr. Tomier,
Here.
Chairman Lyons.
Here.
Quorum is confirmed.
All right, thank you very much. We're gonna turn the time over to Denise for an update on the funds.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think I'm missing one right now, but I believe we have 1.5 million left.
And that's the approval of 1 through 9,
Correct.
with those other two excluded, right? But then added back in, okay?
Correct. That's actually approval 1 through 16.
Correction, yeah,
Yes,
Correct.
sorry, 1 through 16.
Correct.
except 9, right, except the 9.
Except 9.
Except 9.
And then that also includes 17.
And 2020.
And it includes 20.
Okay.
23.
Well,
Is it 20 or 20?
Wait, maybe, no.
23 was included. We did vote on the Friends of the Verde River.
Yes. Yes.
And you have that listed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and so we are at 1.8.
Correct.
I would like to entertain a motion on items 18, 19, 21, and 22 as the next recommendation, even though it was split by the committee.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will so move then that the board consider approval, or that the board approve the recommendations of the committee on agenda items 12.18, 19, 20, and 21. And that would be grant resolutions 2025.
How about 21 and 22, Ted, instead of 20?
Oh, okay, it's 18, 19, 21, and 22.
Yes.
And that would be grant resolutions 2025-102, -103, -105, and -106.
We have a motion.
This is Tim, second.
Second, okay, we have 2 seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries, and I think that puts us at 1.5.
Yes, that's correct.
And so we have around,
Amount remaining is, well, you have 1.5 remaining.
okay,
We now have
Remaining.
1.5 remaining.
I would- we have the last number, which is 24 for the city of Douglas on the split vote, even though this was recommended for not approval, disapproval. I'd like to entertain a motion that was a 4-3 on item WC 7-359-2025 as ranked by the committee.
If I may,
Yes, Patrice?
I would make a motion to approve, item WC 7-359-2025 in the amount of $813,750.
We have a
Mr.
motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Tim. I'll second it. And just to clarify, this is to go against the recommendation to disapprove. This is to approve.
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
So seconded.
I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
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 For disapproval, opposed? Nay. Yeah. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
And just for the record, Mr. Chair, sorry, Joe, on which one? Go ahead, Joe.
Sure, so, as this was a recommendation from the committee for a disapproval, and this board is recommending, modifying that and going to an approval, you will need to state the reasons for, going against the committee's recommendation on the record, so your justification for your vote, for what you're doing. And there's been some discussion already about the need to get ARPA funds out, so a clarification of that continuing to be the justification, or any additional justifications you'd like to put on the record.
Patrice?
Thank you, and thanks for that. And, you know, obviously, there is before us City of Douglas Reservoir and Pipeline Rehabilitation Project. the subcommittee did a great job of reviewing this. They came up with a 4-3 vote, 3 obviously opposed, but it was very close vote. We do have a ranking from them. I believe they spent a lot of time analyzing this and came up with this as one of their top rankings. We also have a very limited amount of time to spend these ARPA funds. It would be my intent to get this out and to spend all the $14.1 million as given to us by the governor. And so I would go with the ranking from the subcommittee, and that is why I made the motion to approve.
Thank you. For clarification, on that, Patrice, do we have a second?
We already voted.
I know, okay, so you didn't want to vote again, just the
I
clarification?
just need the
Okay.
justifications on the record.
As,
And I voted nay, and the reason I voted nay is because there's no projected water savings.
Yes. Duly noted. Thank you, Richard. Denise, what's our update?
What happened to the last one?
So, Mr. Chair, after that approval, the board has just over $700,000 remaining to award. We are now on the list of unanimously recommended to disapprove. It is your prerogative to pull individual applications, to handle things in a package. However, the board would like to approach this. It is up to you.
What's the pleasure of the board with that 701,280?
Well,
If we take them in order, and we have outstanding on that reference list of the unanimously not recommended for approval, we have 200 from Roosevelt Irrigation District. We have 180 from Sierra Pacific.
no, we have 20, we have Gila Valley still, right?
Oh,
2.9,
0.28,
which you,
I'm sorry.
0.28.
Which we have not yet discussed.
Okay. What was the outstanding balance?
701.
Okay.
$700, yeah.
So we eat it all up in 27 and 28, bottom line, if we went in order.
And I will also note for the board, as you remember, the last round of conservation grants at the last meeting, you did approve partial grants for several applicants. And what we have done to you as applicants have unfortunately had to deobligate, we've used that deobligated funding to go towards those partial grants, right? And bring them back up. So if you do choose today to approve essentially more or approve a grant for a reduced amount, but you could also direct us then to go back with, if potentially deobligated, having a little bit of buffer, what I'm trying to say would not be a bad thing on staff's behalf. And so keep that in mind too. If you can't get exactly to 701, or if you need to do a partial award for that, there is actually a benefit to that in terms of administrative work too.
What does it do to the timeline if we, go ahead, Tim.
Mr. Chair, subject to the answer to your question that if we had time at the May meeting to resolve any residual and any turnbacks, then I have a motion that I would put on the table to approve the Roosevelt Irrigation District one for 200,000 and reserve the remainder for May.
So there's a motion on the floor for 200,000 on item number 12-27 Roosevelt Irrigation District. Do we have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Chairman, this is Sue Montgomery. Can I clarify the extent of this motion? I took
Yes.
Mr. Tomier's motion to be twofold, sort of. One was to take care of Roosevelt Irrigation District, and secondarily to reserve the remainder. So is that the motion, or is the motion just for Roosevelt?
No, I would like to reserve the remainder, and actually I'd like to add, if Mr. Tamier would consider it, referring that back to the committee.
Why don't we go ahead and take that as a separate motion then, Mr. Chair? Let's vote on Roosevelt Irrigation District, determine whether that 200 is what the board wants to spend, and then we can go and decide what we do with the remainder at this point.
Okay, fine.
I revise my motion accordingly, just moving RID 12.27 WC 7367 2025 in the amount of $200,000.
Thank you.
And I would revise my second for the same.
And we'll call for the question.
And
All in-
before you, sorry, Chairman Lynch, before you do the vote, just a reminder, since this is a motion to approve a recommendation that the committee did not advance, you would need to state your reasons for the approval.
Mr. Tamir, would you please restate your motion?
You can do
Two-
it now.
Or
You
just-
can do it now as
yeah.
part of your discussion.
Yeah.
My reason for overturning the committee's recommendation is twofold. One is the timeline, and two is it continues to be my my assertion that we are under investing in agricultural conservation, and I believe this is one that would advance our agricultural water conservation investment.
Thank you, Mr. Tamir, for that clarification. Did we call for the question on that?
Go ahead.
Let's call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, we have approximately $500,000 left. Would the board like to consider reverting that back to the board for consideration on the remaining funds?
You mean
Ted,
to the committee,
to the committee.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I would like to, since we're starting over basically on the question of what to do with the remainder, rather than referring it back to the committee, to basically go through 16 applications all over again and try to re-rank them and come up with potentially a different outcome. I like the approach that somebody brought up here is why don't we do what we did the last time? Fortunately, and it is I consider this project, the next project, number 28, to have a lot of merit. I'm not concerned with the objections about sole source and so forth. I think this is a proven technology with the particular vendor that was selected. My understanding is that the district and its partners did go through their own procurement process and select this vendor based on a procurement process on number 28. So where I'm going with this is I would say, what is stopping us right now from making a partial funding up to the extent of the funds that we have remaining to that project? It's not a kind term, but it's a sump. It's a sump for the remaining funding, similar to what we had on the first round with those two projects that we partially funded, and any relinquishments of returns of funding or projects that are withdrawn later on can go to the next project in line, as we did before. If we find ourselves in the unusual position of getting $3 million returned to us and that project is fully funded, one thing that I mentioned that is fortunate about this project being in this position is it's fungible. We don't have to do the whole 550 acres. I think they'd be happy to do 50 acres because they've already done this much and another piece, and now they're working on a third piece. Anything can be helpful. The project is not crippled if they only get a partial funding in my reading of this. And we're lucky that it's a project like this, that it's not, well, we either need all of it or we can't do anything.
Yeah, this is,
project.
I've had my hand up for quite a while and I'll just have to jump in then.
Yeah, I was gonna recognize you next, David.
That's the question I was going to ask. And so Ted made a supposition there. I just like to ask the staff if that's correct. If it's correct, I'm all for partially funding point 1228. But please, I want to hear from the staff whether that supposition is correct, because he said, I would think.
And this is Lindsay. I would say I do believe that is correct. This is an application to purchase NDRIP irrigation equipment, as Member Cook stated, for approximately 550 acres of farmland. So I do believe they could reduce their scope of work plan, but we could also hear from the applicant if we wanted that clarified.
Okay, we have another hand up, and that's Tim, and then we'll go to the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like where this is heading, if it's heading where I think it's heading, and I think I will. I'll be supportive of that. I just want to point out that there's a similar line of thinking that could be applied to this. How many acres of NDRIP get applied in a certain district, where we could potentially come up against the $3 million limit. That would
I was trying to get him to go run it.
Excuse me, one second. Who's talking?
he muted. Or he's
Okay.
muted.
Go ahead, Tim.
So that we there's a logic that was applied to some of the AMI projects below that were not considered for funding because there was this definition of, is that a new project versus is continued addition of AMI in the same system a different project or not? And I think arguments can be made either way. I'm not making that argument. I just think we want to be cautious that if we're talking about converting irrigated acres to a technology in a given district, that same limitation should or should not apply as was applied to AMI on 60, 61, et cetera. Having said that, I don't think we're in that spot. But I think I just want to throw that caution out there, but I think we have enough room to do what Mr. Cook is alluding to within this irrigation district.
Thank you, Tim. All right, we're gonna hear from the applicant now.
All right, I've got Sam Daly and someone who has joined as iPhone, so I'm not sure of your name, but the applicant is welcome to join in and answer the question as to whether a partial award would still be something feasible for this project.
Can you hear me?
We can,
Yes.
Sam, thanks.
I just got to get off a cotton planter, so I can barely hear you, but I think I know what you're, as far as a partial award, we would love that and it would help us tremendously. We've been trying to get this portion of our system lined for as long as I've been alive, and we haven't been able to come up with the resources to do so. As far as the in-drip goes, or as the irrigation, that has been something that is, whether it's them or or other people that we've used, it has been something that has shown to save water tremendously. But like I said, my first point was that the portion of our system that we are trying to line would save us a ton of water, as we've had that on our wish list for some time.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And who is iPhone 5?
Yeah, that's me. My name is J.R. Howard. Thank you for having me. I'm on the district board for the Gila Valley Irrigation District as well. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Yeah, this section of canal that Sam Daly was talking about is a really troublesome area that we've pinpointed in our canal that we have found that we're losing a lot of water is why we're trying to get this 1.22 section of canal lined. And it like Sam said, we've been trying to do this for as long as we can remember, trying to find the funding to do this. So it would help us tremendously.
All right, thank you very much, both of you, for being here today. I'm going to bring it back to the board to entertain a motion, unless you have any additional questions.
Nope.
Sure. This is David. I make a motion to allocate the remainder of the funds we have available to us to item 12.28 Gila Valley Irrigation District, WC 733222025, however much this late rating.
David, would you include in that motion any reversion of funds?
Sure, and any reversion of funds we get back from what we've done granted today to others who do, or anybody else who kicks back funds to us.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I would second that, Richard Lund.
Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. We have a few different items that were pulled that we probably ought to close out. Just as a matter of,
There's
yes.
no more money.
No, I know, but we need to state that because they've been pulled.
I think, offering a suggestion, Joseph Telly, General Counsel, I think what you can do is, because one of those items that was pulled due to a conflict from Member Tamur, I think you can go ahead and pull that one and consider it separately. That was agenda item 12.60. You could then consider the remainder as a package, considering that you have obligated all funds.
Okay, so the remainder that I would like to consider as a group are 12.
Do 12.60 first, since that's the one with the conflict, and then we can do the package.
Okay. Do we have a motion on item 12.60?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I move that on item 12.60, City of Tucson, WC 7303-2025, that the board follow the recommendation of the committee to deny this application.
Do we have a second?
I will second that, Richard Lund.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries.
This is Tim, registering my abstention.
Thank you very much, Tim. Could you please read out the following items that we will consider as a group?
Denise and Lindsay, you guys have the better slide to do that.
And Gary, if we could go to slide 66. So we will have agenda item 12.29, 30, 31, 32, 30, sorry, I'll just say it was group 12.29 through 12.47, and then 12.48 to 12.52. We have voted on 12.53 already, so 12.54 to,
Go to the next slide here.
and sorry, I just need to get 12.6 updated. So 12.48 to 12.52, and then 12.54 to 12.59, and then 12.61 to 12.66. And
I would entertain a motion.
I mean, that's pretty Joe.
So, I think we can clean it up. I
Yeah.
think what you could say is you are voting on the remainder of the applications 12.27 through 12.66, with the exception of
Yes.
12.27, 12.28, 12.53, and 12.60.
And I would so move, and like I say, the reason I pulled most of those is because they were ag projects and they did have big water savings, and I appreciate, and I'll say it one more time, I appreciate the work of the committee. I'm not downing what they did or how they prioritized. I just think that I wanted those projects to be noted as ags doing their part.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lund. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
From Buchanan, I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion carries. Agenda item 13, call to the public. This is the time for any additional public comments. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Have we received any requests for public comment?
Mr. Chair, this is Director McGuire. We have not.
Okay. Agenda item 14, agenda development. This is the opportunity for members to identify any topics they would like to be placed on an agenda at a future meeting. Ms. McGuire?
Yes, sir. So, board, first of all, thanks for this marathon meeting. Really appreciate you doing the work and getting here to get all these decisions made. There are two things I will note that you've mentioned earlier that will be placed on an agenda for later discussion. The first relating to, of course, we will come back to you with an update on the financial situation and the bond sale. But you did mention specifically that it would be helpful for the board to have some additional day-to-day contact between the staff. We will certainly facilitate that, of course, not making any decisions in that contact, but making sure that we have up-to-date information to the board as we receive it. The second, for Water Supply Development Revolving Fund, Mr. Davis made a very helpful suggestion about the structure of the agenda in vote categories. I think prior we had a little more unanimous votes in that, so we hadn't been structuring that way. We will plan to bring those to you in those more lumped categories of approval versus disapproval. Other than that, I think we're good unless board members have anything else they'd like to add.
If not, we'll go to agenda item 15, next meeting.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So currently scheduled for May 21st, 2025 here in this room. As usual, we will poll members for their attendance and have materials to you a week out.
Just wanted to thank all the committee members who diligently worked through these challenges at times. Recognize the additional money from the governor that I believe has been well spent today. And then thank each and every member of the board as well as staff. I know it's an arduous task and a lot of people looking for this assistance. And with that being said, it is 12:01 and this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.